Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to Code Red Conversations. I'm your host, Eric Muldrow. In today's episode, I have my special guest with me today. She goes by Clarity Speaks, and we're going to discuss this whole situation going down with the bombshell reporting breakthrough, y'all. For not for those of us on the right for the most part, because we all saw it like forever ago, before 2020, 2019, there were many of us were saying we saw the writing on the wall that Joe Biden was a shell of his former self. Not that he was ever ultra sharp anyway, but y'all get what we're saying. We saw it years ago, but now, once again, another right-wing conspiracy theory has come true. I mean, we can't even keep count how often this happens. But before I get into that, because man, we're ready for this show. I want to welcome my girl Clarity. How you doing today, dear?
Excellent, excellent, Eric. Thank you so much for inviting me on today.
Oh,
And
you're very welcome. Very welcome. Go
look,
ahead.
what are we? We're like 10-0 on the right
It's,
wing conspiracy.
it seems like. Let me think, because I kind of rattled them off a couple of videos ago on YouTube. Let me see. COVID, the vaccines. You're talking about the lockdowns. We're talking about what else? I mean, the only one. I mean, give me some other ones. What am I missing? What?
Well, the one that keeps burning my biscuits. My biscuits are still in the oven burning on this one because we've yet to fully vindicate, and that's election 2020.
Oh, you know what?
Okay.
It's coming. The way things are going, it's
Yeah.
coming.
The election fraud 2020 is the smoking gun. It's the linchpin of everything. It's the big domino that's going to explain everything from COVID to the fact that what we're talking about today, that they hid Biden from day one, and we
Right.
know that he was frail and not his
Compromised mentally.
best. How do we know that? Because President Trump was calling him Sleepy Joe way back
Right.
45 years ago. He got the name Sleepy Joe back in 2020.
Lord have
Remember?
mercy. This is
Donald
so
Trump, he been
okay.
trying to tell us.
Right. Oh, Russia Gate, January 6th.
Oh, yeah.
Um, what else? My goodness. Like I said, it's
Oh, you already said COVID. Did you
yeah,
say
everything
COVID?
to do with COVID,
Yeah.
from the issues with the vaccine, the myocarditis, the lockdowns, how negative they were, the mask, how they really didn't help the 6 feet rule and all this it was all garbage.
But listen, within just
The
COVID
origins of
alone,
COVID,
we're up like 10-0 in terms of
easily.
conspiracy to with just COVID alone. When you're talking about the medications, ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, that they said didn't work and was tried to shame what's his name, Joe Rogan,
Joe
saying
Rogan,
it
right?
was horse medicine and all of that stuff. And now if you go and read the
Horse
literature,
dewormer.
ivermectin is so good for a lot of things, not just COVID. And humans can take it and have been taking it. So anyway, yeah, we're a lot relative to the right wing conspiracies.
It's insane. Like honestly, and I excuse me. And I think that's why there have been so many people formerly on the left that just gave up. Because when you're turning on CNN, like I used to do, I used to watch Wolf Blitzer, The
Yeah,
Situation Room. That was my show. I used to watch
yeah,
it every day. And
yeah,
when you're watching these shows over time, and then you just start hearing their spin on every story, and then as more time goes on, you're like, okay, that's not true. And then there's another story where they were adamant. There's no evidence. There's no evidence that Mr. President, there's no evidence that the Obama campaign spied on your administration. But then come to find out a few years later, they did that. The
right,
Mr. President, that laptop has all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation.
right.
A couple of years later, they decide, well, I guess it was Hunter Biden's laptop. It's like time after time, we are constantly vindicated on the
Right,
right.
right,
And the mainstream media and the liberal left, the progressives, they're constantly being found in lies. And
right.
I don't know either you have to be willfully ignorant, or I don't even know what else. I mean, willfully ignorant, or you just deceived for you to miss out. Like, I don't understand how they have anybody who still sides with them.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Well, again, they win people, or they have won people over the years by claiming this moral high ground, because according
Very
to
true.
them, if you are a Republican or conservative, you are bad and evil. And if you're a Democrat, you're good. So they associate
Mm,
this morality with their worldview. But it's a farce. It's a classic example of accuse my enemy what I'm doing as I'm doing it. They've been disingenuous, and now they're being exposed. The house of cards are coming down, and we're finding out that the emperor, the moral emperor, had no clothes, right? And so now you see people like Cenk, okay,
yeah.
from and Anna Kasparian, and this clip we're going to talk about later, the DNC finance person who raises the money with the donors. I forget her name.
That one
She,
Asian lady, I know you're talking about. I can
oh
see
my
her
God,
face. But
she's out here just spilling all the tea. She's upset.
yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that, because I'm like, even yeah, I'm a little. I'll say this right from the outset, because of the people we're going to be, the videos we're going to be sharing. We're
Yeah,
talking about the Young Turks, who were some of the worst people historically when it came down to the divisiveness between the left and the right.
right.
Cenk, I mean, that dude was just, he'll goes off at the drop of a hat. It swore he was never wrong, but now that he sees, it seems like all the cultural shift that we're seeing now, everybody is either waking up or they're just deciding to get on board because they don't want to miss out on that money train. I don't want to get too deep into it, but
Uh, I
I'm,
agree, because I'm suspicious as well. You know what I mean? Because again, what's again my favorite phrase is burning my biscuits. I have to say that instead of cursing, right? That's my antidote for cursing. But for example, Cenk, Charlemagne the God,
mm,
Stephen A. Smith. I'm having a hard. You're not that dumb, guys. You're not that dumb. So
right.
in other words, the coast is clear. The coast is clear now, so that they can now, either say what they've really been feeling, or they are trying to feign, because now they're embarrassed and they have to say face. Because what's killing me is now they love to try to act like they've been so independent. Especially Charlemagne.
And
I
Stephen A
just
is
pulled my
another
hair
one.
out when he's now trying to be a critic of the left and saying, and I'm going, but that was you, bro. You were over here trying to sell us to vote for Kamala Harris and talking about how great she was.
Chris Cuomo, another one.
Yeah. But now all of a sudden, when they see that none of those things worked, and they're all looking basically, they're being exposed as being culpable to this, to the media. I mean,
Mm,
you can't get around it. And so now all of them are trying to, escape and appear to be like, oh, I'm independent. I'm independent. You've never been independent.
right.
And I think for Charlemagne, just a side note or sidebar is that, you know, Democrats are they're gang, and they have shooters, right? Allegedly. Okay, they have shooters. But I think that, well, I know that, I suspect, how about that? Allegedly, that Charlemagne has been carrying their water because he does not want to end up being R. Kelly. Because actually, he's two steps from being R. Kelly or me or P. Diddy. Because there is a case behind Charlemagne and a young lady
Oh,
that
I hadn't heard
approved.
that.
Oh my gosh, yes, it came out around 2020. I mean, 2018, right around the Me Too movement. And this is right around the time when he
Okay.
totally flipped and became all this Zen person. But that's a whole other sidebar.
Yeah,
But my
yeah, yeah.
point is to say, these guys, from your Roland Martins to your Stephen A. Smith to your Charlemagne's and to others, their livelihood is inextricably attached to carrying these narratives. And I
Oh, I
think,
agree.
and just like the Asian girl said, I feel like they're now feeling a bit liberated because the left has lost the narrative. And so now they can say a little bit, be at liberty to say a little bit more than what they
Mm.
maybe really feel.
Let me ask you this: when it comes down to the black folks on the left, how much of a role, if any, in your opinion, do you think that the indoctrination that we've all gotten over the years, how much of a role do you think that played in them holding on and just in not in being in denial to some degree? Because I know I've had people tell me over the years, they pointed out the problems with me being a professing Christian and being a
Mhm.
Democrat, but I
Mhm.
wasn't trying to hear it. Be
Mhm.
honest with you, I wasn't
Mhm.
trying to hear it. I know that it took a while for me to finally see the light. So, in your opinion, based on your own experiences, I'm sure, how much of a factor was the leftist indoctrination that we get ingrained in from youth all the way up until now? How big of a factor do you think that plays for the
A
Stephen A. Smiths,
total
the
huge, huge,
Charlemagne's?
huge factor, a huge factor. And from my own experience, I voted for Bill Clinton my first time voting. Why? Because my mom and them was a Democrat, and I
Right,
remember
right.
being in the 8th grade, although politics was not the topic of my middle school years, but I do remember kids echoing their parents in middle school. And
Yeah.
now, and also I'm substitute teaching, and the day after the election, kids were coming to school, you could tell, echoing their parents. And so, but for me, I remember being in middle school, and when Ronald Reagan was in office, I thought Ronald Reagan was a bad person,
Yeah, me too.
right? And then here I go, I grow up and I become a conservative and learn the history. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Like it's like a shock. So yes, I do think it is a total. That's what's keeping a lot of them from just coming on out and being intellectually honest. Because what Charlemagne and some of the other black pundits who were kind of you know towing this middle line,
Yeah.
I think the reason that they're stuck there is because they are afraid of the backlash from the black community, from the black delegation at the cookout, right? They are afraid to endure that because their audience was built on black people, and we
Hmm.
know that many of them, even though a lot of us are voted for Trump and are waking up, many still aren't in terms of in their demographic. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, I've been. I know what I went through, and you and I have talked about it a little bit with some of the things that you've dealt with, even recently. You were sharing with me, but
Mhm.
I know how big of a role. I know what it was when I started slowly showing my conservative views and values. And like for me, and my audience is very familiar with this. My conversion, my Christian conversion, was like as far as because I lived many years as a Sunday Christian.
Mhm.
You know, I'm praising the Lord, standing up, lifting up hands, crying, all that kind of stuff, but live like the world Monday through Saturday.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I truly understood the weight of my sin on my life and the fact that if I died in my sin, that I would literally end up in hell,
Mhm.
separated from God eternally.
Yeah.
And that fear of the Lord was truly the beginning of wisdom in my
Mhm.
life. And it woke me up to the point to where I was like, Lord, I remember just being on my knees and just crying out to God.
Mhm.
And it was like a process for me. I can't remember a specific day where I kind of saw the light. It was
Mhm.
like a process of just understanding the impact that sin has on the life of, mankind.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, the Lord introduced me to a lot of sound, solid biblical teachers who really, I mean, some of these like people I never met, just watching videos,
Who are
listening to
some of
podcasts.
them?
At the time, it was like John MacArthur and like
Mhm.
Wretched Radio, like Todd Friel, Paul Washer, a lot of more reformed guys. I mean, that was really heavily into that at that time. And that really, like the music I listened to, I was big time Lamp Mode Records.
Mhm.
Like Shy Lynn had a major impact on my life and whatnot. And
Mhm.
I remember we talked about that before, talked about him
Mhm.
before. But it
Mhm.
was it was sound biblical teaching that I mean, back in the day, I was TD Jakes, Joel Osteen. I mean, I'm embarrassed to even say that nowadays, but that's who I used to listen to, and
Mhm.
some other local people. But I remember just there was an episode of Wretched Radio where somebody wrote in and was talking to Todd about abortion and how serious an issue that was.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, I knew that I needed the Lord, but of course there's the whole sanctification process. I was still growing. And then the discussion that took place, it was like a 10-15 minute discussion that took place
Mm-hmm.
where the issue of abortion really started meaning a lot to me when I really took the blinders off my eyes and saw it for what it was.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, then I started examining every aspect of my worldview. And it was another thing, another part. I'm big time into apologetics. Like I love apologetics. And I was listening to a lot of Answers in Genesis, Creation, Ministries International. And there was an article where they discussed how to read some of these scientific texts that talk about evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And they told you what words to look for. And so you can be more discerning when you're reading things. And they were like, the headline will say, new evidence proves evolution or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you start reading the article, you'll see a lot of it has been theorized
Right.
or quite possibly this
Right.
and that. They said every article you read, you're going to see that in their writing. I said the
Yeah.
headline is what gets people. So then I
Right.
started examining everything like that. Like I really started developing
Yeah.
transform mind to be able to be more discerning.
Yes.
Once I started examining my whole worldview,
Yeah.
I said,
So
I
good.
can't have, there's no such thing as Eric's personal opinion.
Correct.
I mean, unless it's a minor issue that where the Lord gives us grace and wisdom, hopefully to be able to decide those factors. But when it came down to those big issues, there's no longer Eric's opinion. I'm called to die to myself. That's my call.
Right.
And then I just started looking at all these different things. I'm like, these Democrats stand for gay marriage, they stand for transgenderism, they stand for abortion, and they stand, I'm like, none of these things are biblical. None of them.
Right.
So how can I, in good conscience, stand up there as a professing man of God and go to the voting booth and say that I'm going to put my support behind a party that supports things that God clearly hates?
Right. And to that point, to answer the question that I've been answering for a few years now, when the age question that a lot of social justice type Christians, I hate to say that, social justice type Christians, but Christians who lean and really believe that social justice is the main issue, I guess, that should be driving believers, I guess, maybe. But in any case, there's always this question of how could you vote for Donald Trump? And you're supposed to be a Christian. Again, the implication is this morality, this moral high road that they like to stand on, right?
Absolutely.
And so, but the question is, to your point, Donald Trump is a fellow transgressor of God's law, like you and I.
Yes.
Okay, he's a transgressor. What the Democrat Party represents are people who are opposed to God. they are opposers to
ideologically opposed.
Yeah, totally opposed. It's one thing to be a transgressor who is friendly to the principles of God.
Right.
Okay? Because that would be all Christians, aren't we? You know what I'm saying? We're transgressors, but we are, even if we're lukewarm, we're still kind of empathetic, or I would say friendly, for lack of a better words. We're not opposing God's law. If someone came to us and said, you're a sinner, we said, yeah, true.
Yeah.
We're not opposing that. And if anyone came to Donald Trump, I'm sure he's never claimed to be a Christian. He's never claimed to be perfect or any of those things, So
I think he actually did claim that he's a Christian, but
did he?
I think he's made that profession. I'm pretty sure he stated that he is one, but at the same time, how many of us have done that in the past? And I'm not giving the man a pass. He could believe that he could believe he's one, but he may be, and he could just be very immature in his walk. I don't know,
well,
but I'm pretty sure. I'm sorry to interrupt.
The point, I guess, that I'm trying to make is that he's like a Darius to me. His character maps like a King Jehu and a King Darius to me, in that they for Jehu, he was called by God for a specific question. For a specific purpose to exact justice on the evil of that day, which was what Ahab and Jezebel. Remember how Jehu came to power suddenly, unexpectedly. He only had a specific mission to carry out that justice. Donald Trump maps to that to me. And also he maps a little bit to King Darius in being friendly to Christian principles, in that he's not trying to round us up and throw us in jail. Okay, he's friendly to all people of faith and letting us all coexist. Okay, so with that, I lost my train of thought. Where I was
No,
going
you were breaking down why when people ask the question, how come we as Christians vote for Donald Trump?
Exactly. So that's the answer to me, is that we're not voting for a pastor. People say that all the time. That's the new rebuttal as well. We're not voting for a pastor. We're voting for someone who can land the plane. Someone who can actually land the plane. Someone who does have, who is friendly to people of faith.
Right.
And that's it. And someone that is not aggressively opposing everything that God has created. It's like everything that they're standing for is like a middle finger to God.
And I think that's the issue, is the ideology as opposed to the individual. What do they stand for? When they leave, when Donald Trump leaves, you're not going to have to deal with the mean tweets. Correct. You're not going to have to deal with him being aggressive in those press conferences. Mm-hmm. However, his policies will live on.
Right.
If Kamala Harris had been in there, she may have been all quote unquote statesman-like and mm-hmm. professional as a look. She may have had all the trappings of a politician. Because I've heard people say, well, Donald Trump isn't a statesman. He talks mm-hmm. crazy and does all this. That's why I don't like him. But to mm-hmm. me, that's wholly irrelevant in my mind.
Right.
Because when it's all said and done, we're going to have to deal with the consequences of the worldview of the individual who we support. Correct. So are you okay with the idea of a president who's largely one of the most pro-life presidents we've ever seen mm-hmm. in recent years, and that I can recall, Donald Trump? Mm-hmm. Or do you want somebody who's radically pro-abortion all the way up until the 9th month?
Right.
And even some discussions that if a baby is born alive after a botched abortion, she literally went against the Born Alive Act twice.
Right.
So are you okay with that? Are you okay with somebody who wants to protect our children from being transitioned? Or you want somebody who's all about it, starting from like grade school?
And listen, here's the rebuttal. You want a rapist? You want someone convicted of 34 felonies? You want someone who's been divorced 3 times? He's a womanizer. He said, grab him by the pee.
To me, honestly, and I'll be the first one to be critical when it's due. I'm not some Donald Trump apologist, as in meaning whatever he does is excusable. I don't feel like that about him. But when it's all said and done, those factors, how do those factors, any of that, impact the policies that he's behind? How does any of those factors impact you or I as individuals, as him being president? Explain that to me. And are we not, and if we're believers, are we not called to some level of grace as opposed to the individual? And, are we called to examine, like the church is supposed to examine ourselves first? Judgment begins in the house of the Lord. And if he's not in the church, I'm not saying we ignore those factors, but in the grand scheme, let's be real. We're voting for a political leader whose policies we're going to get behind or not. That's the fact. That's the core of it all. Because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris can act as nice as they want to do, but if their actions are evil, and then they're going to impact millions of people, potentially impact, or at the very least, thousands. when I go in that voting booth and I'm gonna get supports whoever, there is no way anybody can articulate to me how that is justified and how that is godly, how that is biblical. Getting behind somebody who you know is, it's like this. If somebody can vote for you or I, Tish, you want to take the chloride, the fluoride out of the drinking water, but I want to put arsenic in it.
Right.
But on paper, I'm the nice guy. You
Right.
talk a little crazy, you're a little rude at times, but I'm the statesman out there. I'm nice to the media, but and I'm the nice guy. All this kind of stuff. I say all the right things. I go into churches and I'm preaching and I'm acting like, I know what I'm talking about. But yet, that's an analogy, and it just popped into my head the difference between the two. Or let's even say you got a criminal record, you got out of prison, all kinds of stuff. But when it comes down to we're voting for like local leaders here, city council members, and you want to make sure that drinking water is safe. I want to put poison in it, but I'm the nice guy.
Right.
Who are you going to vote for,
Right.
and why? And why?
But and again, I would even take it a step further because that is the core, right? But unfortunately, we are conditioned not to reason in that way. You know what I mean? We're looking at the surface because all they see, and that's the reason that when we start to react to these videos, we'll start talking about the media and their role in being an arm of the Democrat Party to social psychologically manipulate voters.
Absolutely.
And appeal to this morality in people and their desire to be good people. That's what attracts them, because the implication is if you vote for Kamala Harris, you're voting for joy. You're voting for all of these other things all these good moral things that they associate with her.
Right.
We're dignity. We're bringing dignity back to the office and all of that. But this presupposes that what they're saying about Donald Trump is true, you see.
Yes.
That's the other thing, the 34 felonies. People just look, they haven't even lifted the hood and kicked the tires to find those things aren't even true. The rapists, they're calling this man a rapist, slandering him every day. That's one of the reasons he just got the lawsuit against George whatever his name is over there.
George Stephanopoulos.
You call this man a rapist? Off of this accusation and these trumped up charges. That is the other thing that is alarming here, because we can't even get to where you are talking about in reasoning at that level, because they so believe that he is a convicted felon.
Yes, and like you said, they're not even examining the cases individually, and a lot of them won't even what's the word I'm looking for? They won't even consider the fact that is it possible that they're going after this man, and there was a movement to make sure that he never makes it back into the White House.
34 felonies amount to accounting entries.
Right.
Accounting entries. Okay? And some accusations that in any other context would have been not even brought to trial, would have been laughed out of court.
Even Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York, said I guess he was the DA, the state's district attorney at one time. And he said, if this case didn't have Donald Trump, his name attached to it, he said throughout all the years he was the DA, he said, or the attorney general, one of the two, he said they never tried cases like this ever. But the fact, and he says, I'm not even a supporter. He was a Democrat. But he said the mere fact that it's Donald Trump is why this case is even went where it went. And then when you're talking about the one with old girl on it, there's so much information
that's too old girl, Letitia.
The one where he actually had to pay like $180 million to this one chick.
Oh, yeah.
A really weird acting lady. Yeah. He talked about like it was her word against his. She was wrong about where the I think like the month and year of
Oh,
when
you're
this
talking about
alleged.
Stormy Daniels or something like that. That
No, it
that
wasn't.
case.
It wasn't Stormy.
E. Jean Carroll. E. Jean Carroll. Yeah.
E. Jean Carroll, yes. She was wrong about like the year it went down. She was wrong about the location. And there were things that Trump's side wanted to present into the entire
Evidence.
situation and
And
as
then we
evidence.
had.
Yeah. Like the fact that she named her dog or cat vagina. He
Yeah.
talked about that and I was dying laughing, but it impacts on her character. That's what he was
Correct.
trying to get across. And it was basically there was no video footage, none of that. It was basically her word against his. And you're talking about a biased jury. I think that took place in New York as well, did it?
Yeah. Yeah. That was
And
the yeah.
so
Yeah.
you're talking about a whole a whole system that basically hated Donald Trump and they were out to get him.
And then you have the prosecutors doing what do they call it? Forensic, all these forensic violations of speaking about the case and how much they hate him in public.
Right.
You know, announcing that they're coming after him, and like you don't do that as an attorney. Like that in of itself is a violation of your legal ethics. You know,
Yeah, you should
so
automatically be disqualified, or or
yeah.
like you should not be involved in everything that you do should be scrutinized as in this person has an agenda. Why are we even hearing this? But
Hmm.
it was none of that. And his political opponents are blind to the reality that this man could possibly be a victim of some type of lawfare. But the cool thing about it is now that he's back in office, and if he gets all the people that he's looking to get in place, Pam Bondi, especially Kash Patel, there, hopefully I pray that there's some deep investigations. And like we talk about, because I'm as fired up about 2020 as you, I truly
Hmm.
believe the things like the Bible says about what's done in darkness will eventually come to light. And I think that all those folks that looked at us like we're crazy, we're talking about 2020. It's like, what
Yep.
do you got to say now? I mean, I
Exactly.
don't even care about the "I told you so," but it's kind of fun at times to say "I told you so."
But you know, again, like you said, we're coming closer to that. And how about this? Let me tell you. I emailed, no, because, okay, back in June, March, when Fonnie Willis was on, they had that hearing.
Mm-hmm.
I reached out to Steve Sadow, right? Trump's
Who's
lawyer,
that? Okay.
Trump's lawyer. And I sent him a text to basically, because I keep just jogging their memories. Like whoever I can get ear of, I'm saying, please go back to the 2020 state house hearings, okay? Because when it's funny, when she was on that stand and she was blowing up her spot, I was like, this is the perfect time to bring this back up to say, okay, the reason that she's here, the reason that she's going so hard, the reason that she's crashing out and embarrassing herself like this is because they are scared to death that the world is going to find out how far they went to steal election 2020. that
Mm,
that that hearing and that case was brought in retaliation of Donald Trump and his followers having the audacity to show up that day on January the 6th to
right.
cry foul and to say to those 7 senators who had agreed to not certify because the evidence was so overwhelming, they were going to halt the hearing. I'm sorry, halt the certification of those elections.
Yep.
Um, and they created January the 6th. They manufactured it to get those senators out of the building, to create that chaotic event, to disrupt that proceeding. Everything that they have accused Trump of doing in those J6s, that is what they did. That
Right.
is what they did. That's what they did that day. And so even just this week, I reached out to Ashley Merchant and I reached back out to Mrs. Sadow. Now that she has been disqualified, she's still with her hubris defiant. She wants to
Yep.
appeal to the Georgia Supreme Court. Okay, as if, and I'm like, please just do a rebuttal motion and tell her not only should she be disqualified for her city girl behavior, her 304 city girl behavior with her boo, getting loose on the gray goose, as she says. Okay, getting loose on the
Right.
cash. What they call it? What my professor Nance call it? Cash money G. Getting loose on the Greg. Because not only that, but they need to now bring the attention to there was real election fraud. The case is built on sand. She's saying that Donald Trump and his supporters were lying, saying that there was election fraud and we were trying to interfere with an election. No, there was real election fraud and there's evidence of it. And all they need to do is just file a motion and put that little crumb in there so that Kash Patel, when they get into office, they can have a nice little trail to go and get that evidence.
I'm telling you, I'm so excited about this idea. I'm nervous because I don't trust these fools with the drones flying overhead. I don't know what these people are liable to do when it comes down to. I'm nervous. I mean, they've already had 2 attempts on his life this year, and people forget in 2016 there was an attempted assassination. I plan on doing a video about that, and here it happened here in Las Vegas. There was an attempt on Donald Trump's life by some 16, 17-year-old kid. Yeah, I mean, there's a video out there on YouTube if you hunt it down. And I plan on doing a reaction to that because a lot of people don't, probably either they forgot or they just aren't aware. So you've had multiple attempts on this man's life and 2 in 1 year, and all these people acting as if, oh, we're on board now. Man, that to me, that all kinds of red flags, alarms are going off. It's just too good. Big tech coming to his aid. Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Google, Bill Gates saying he wants to be on, part of his administration. I'm like, these people right here. Yeah, these people right here, I don't trust them. But I'm hoping, and I'm pretty confident that Trump has enough really smart and wise. He's got a lot of wisdom around him. A lot of wisdom around him. So I think he'll be ready for that.
A national treasure.
Say again?
I said Vivek is a national treasure, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Vivek, Charlie Kirk, smart young man. Man, I mean, it's just like, I think he'll be wise enough and listen to people who are saying, Mr. President, I think you should be really careful when it comes down to this, and this. But I'm excited about what's to come potentially. I want to see the truth come out. And then I think if we finally get the evidence for that, that'll be like the literal death knell, I believe.
I'm telling you, bro.
Of the leftist media.
Everything, because it's gonna, I mean, even now when we get to what you want to talk about today.
Yeah, we'll get,
about
How much time do you have to talk, by the way?
How much time? About Joe Biden and what's coming out now about his condition way back when, right?
Right.
All we have to do is play those clips of everybody from that time till now, how they, were just calling us liars, and how they was just caping for Joe Biden, and it's interesting.
Yes. Well, with that in mind, let's just jump on in. Let's get these videos up and rolling. If you see something in particular you want to talk about, all you have to do is just ask me to pause, stop, and we'll proceed from there.
Okay.
They knew from day one. How many times are you going to see the Democratic establishment lie to you before you realize, oh, right, the next time they tell you something, it's also a lie?
The Wall Street Journal has now put out an expose regarding the obvious cover-up carried out by those closest to President Joe Biden when it came to his mental decline. Now, there are a lot of details here. I'm going to try to get to all of the highlights, or at least as many of them as I can, starting with the fact that there were already massive red flags in regard to President Joe Biden's mental decline early on in the beginning months.
You want to stop it right there?
Yeah, I want to stop it right there.
Okay.
Because again, I'm having a hard time believing these people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Well, I'm going to go back on the Young Turks because they were never fans of Joe Biden in the beginning, right? So
That's true.
Okay. So I can cut them some slack. All right. But when I'm hearing now, like your Charlamagne the God and some of the other people on CNN, taking this position on reading the story and going, they knew from the beginning, and they have these reports, and I'm looking at you like, really? Okay, really? Wasn't that your job? You were at the White House press briefings every morning. You ain't know,
Right. But
you.
yeah, I don't want to give it away for those who haven't heard, but it seems
Yeah.
like he had a lot of protection around him. But wouldn't common sense, first of all, you hear it coming from the right. Like I said, we've been saying that from the beginning, before he even stepped into the White House, that man is largely incompetent. Why would he have to disappear for 5 days, 7 days, campaigning out of his basement? Why would he have to do all of that? He had to disappear for like 5, 7 days prior to any debate, any major public appearance. He would disappear. Now, the Joe Biden that we see right now is way worse than he was in 2019. That's been a rapid falling off. Like, he's severely
but he was definitely on the decline then, shortly after that COVID hit, because he was being hidden. And again, the clue to that was Trump was calling him Sleepy Joe way back then.
Right.
You know, so there was something showing even then. And I'm just having a hard time. Again, I still fault the media, all of them, because even I can't even give Cenk, even though they weren't a fan of Joe Biden, they still were carrying the water, because if you were paying attention, if you were serious about the populace and the people, when you notice this, because you guys know, they noticed that he wasn't around like he ought to. We need to go back and look at some of their old videos to see if they were actually calling that out, right? Other than just the, okay, he's a moderate, he's not really a progressive. Okay, they had those sorts of criticisms for him on the Young Turks, but did they feel the need to sound the alarm as to the weird behavior, the lack of presence of Joe Biden and everything during that time? And again, they're going to blame COVID, right? Because it was COVID and blah blah blah. You still could have come out and had some press conferences.
Yeah, you could do something, but again, like there was a deeply layered cover up to prevent people from knowing the truth. But you can only do so much to those of us who have eyes to see. Like, we were aware, we were able to see, man, this brother can barely put 2 sentences together sometimes. I don't want to be making fun of him, but it was the reality of his physical, mental state capacity was extreme levels of deterioration.
Very much so. Very much so. And again, how could all of these media people not know? That's what's burning my biscuits.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't believe that they didn't know. Just like you, I don't believe that they were unaware. Oh my goodness. Now we're reporting on this. A true investigative journalism is to figure out what's going on. People are talking about this. Let's see what we can find out. If there were real journalists. But that whole thing is that's been long gone in the mainstream media.
Look, you see what's manifesting with the MSNBC host. What's the husband and the wife?
Oh yeah, Morning Joe, Joe Scarborough, and I don't know her name.
Because again, how you know that they were complicit is how they all got on the same script, right?
Yes.
And just as early as October, right before the election, you had Morning Joe and his wife, just going in on Republicans and just saying what Joe's the finest I've ever seen him. Like, why would you say that?
I want to hear his response. Like, what does he have to say now? He said, he was like, this is the Joe Biden we're seeing right now. This is the sharpest Joe Biden ever. And if you don't believe that, F you, is basically what he said.
Yeah, he said that.
But now you have all this information out here showing that this man was declining. You have people on the record. You have guys like Joe Manchin. He's largely respected on both sides because he's more of a moderate. You have other people. You have senators. There are other people who are anonymous, but the case that this whoever wrote this article that they built is a strong. You can't just deny it. But it's not 40 people off the record who choose to remain anonymous are making these claims. No, you have people on the record. People, right. Like I said, these are current politicians or former who are saying this is the case. I used to be able to, there were so many people I had to deal with. I never was able to get a one-on-one with him. And,
right.
and like I said, I don't want to give it all away. Let's continue on with the video here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, you're fine. You can stop it. You can stop it every 30 seconds for all I care.
How many times are you going to see the Democratic establishment lie to you before you realize, oh, right, the next time they tell you something, it's also a lie?
The Wall Street Journal has now put out an expose regarding the obvious cover-up carried out by those closest to President Joe Biden when it came to his mental decline. Now, there are a lot of details here. I'm going to try to get to all of the highlights, or at least as many of them as I can, starting with the fact that there were already massive red flags in regard to President Joe Biden's mental decline early on in the beginning months of his administration. But we didn't hear about that, did we? Until it was way too late. Now, a lot of people like us suspected it, but now we have some confirmation that those closest to him saw it and were concerned about it. Administration officials noticed that the president became tired if meetings went long and would make mistakes. They issued a directive to some powerful lawmakers and allies seeking one-on-one time. The exchanges should be short and focused. For example, they avoided doing any of these like meetings first thing in the morning here. So let's just meet so I can tell you what the concerns are. That way the withdrawal will be a little smoother. He says, I was begging them to set expectations low, said Smith, who had worked extensively on the issue and harbored concerns about how the withdrawal might go. He sought to talk to Biden directly to share his insights about the region, but couldn't get on the phone with him. In the end, as we know, that withdrawal, even though we were supportive of withdrawing from Afghanistan, the way it was carried out was pretty disastrous. So 13 U.S. service members and more than 170 Afghans died as a result. And Smith made a critical comment to the Washington Post about how the administration was lacking a clear view of the U.S. back,
I mean, just think about it. Take the Afghanistan withdrawal. And I don't know if that was because when it's all said and done, most presidents would want to sit back. As a former veteran, just from what I know, when it comes to military breakdown, you're not an expert on the combat zone. That's not your job if you're the president. He's been in Congress for 50 years. He's been in politics forever, but he's still not a soldier. He's definitely not an officer where or a non-commissioned officer where he's leading men in a combat zone. He wasn't that. You would think that you would want to lean on the wisdom from these other men and women who have been in those positions and figure out how to respond accordingly. How do you withdraw out of a combat environment, a place we've been embedded in for 20 plus years? How do you do that without causing an utter and total disaster? But then they basically just yanked all their people out. How many soldiers? I know it was 170 Afghanis, but was it 13?
13, yeah.
13
and those families are furious, and they should be. And I smell a lawsuit, like I don't know, because this whole pardon thing. But see, the way God, it seems, I was telling someone, it feels like there's a portal of grace that's open, that's dispensing poetic justices, right? And even if they do get pardons and they think that they're going to get off, I don't see that boding well for them in any case, even if they miss being prosecuted by the Trump administration or whatever.
But if you think about it, though, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that I'm sure they're furious.
They should be. They have every right to be on so many levels. Not only was the withdrawal poorly planned out and executed, but you also have the reality that you had a 2 steps above a vegetable, Joe Biden, running, so-called supposedly running the show and making all these poor like who, like right now they're trying to act like Trump's not the president right now. It's or he's not the president elect. It's Elon Musk. They're trying to cause all this division. But let's be real. Who was running the last 4 years? Was
Correct.
it really Joe? Was it really Joe Biden?
Correct.
Was it really him? Honestly,
Correct.
In this video, I'm not sure if it's in this video or it's in the article, but there's talks about there were times where they would be interviewing new interns or people, new staff members, and Joe wasn't even present.
Mm-hmm.
Jill would be there. Jill was the one who was present interviewing these people. So who was really running? I mean, it's insane. The way that man was walking around confused, and they said it themselves in the video. He has good days and he had bad days. They would have to cancel his whole schedule because he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, I won't keep talking.
No.
But I don't know if you want to comment. Do you want to say something?
No, I was listening. You finish.
No, you remember is it Robert Hur, the guy who investigated him about having the the documents in his garage? Do you remember that whole?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You remember that whole thing that went down? And what was the guy's finding? He said he had a poor memory. He forgot. He was very forgetful, and he didn't seem like. And it was, to summarize it, it was like he was a frail, forgetful old man, and he didn't think that anybody would prosecute him. That's why he didn't press charges.
Right.
And the left, the Democrats, went after this man and was telling he needed to apologize. He's talking bad. All that turned out to be true.
Right.
All of that.
Right.
And that's what gets me is lie after lie after lie when it comes down to these liberals, these Democrats. You can't trust them as far as you can throw them. They will lie about everything. And that shows the godless nature of the Democratic Party. Because
go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
and
you're
I was
good.
going to ask some of these Republicans as well.
Yes,
what's going on with Mitch McConnell and all these others that are pushing back on these appointees, and then what Mike Johnson pulled with
1,500 pages.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out, trying to be empathetic in the sense of, okay, I'm not there, I'm on the outside looking in. There's so much that they have to navigate and politically to kind of play some chess, right, with these folks, because the system is so swampy, right? It's so swampy. And so you're just not going to come in and just change things without any resistance or opposition. So I'm sympathetic to that on one end, but then
they thought.
Huh?
Well, so they thought.
Right.
That thing went from 1,500 pages down to 118 or 115 pages.
Exactly. So again, we're going back to what I was saying earlier, thinking like, man, can we even win? But we did win, and Trump is seemingly getting people around him that are different and that are innovators and that are truly innovating their thinking, right? They're not a monolith there, right? Yeah. But I'm still trying to I'm not saying trying to figure out, but like you, I'm suspicious to trust it because have we as the populace really making a difference? And the government is now starting to become afraid of us.
Well, look what happened. Elon Musk posted about it. But first Vivek came out and said that he read the whole thing.
Yep,
and he talked about all the foolishness that was in that bill. And then Elon, with his 203 million followers on X, posted about it. If any Republican supports this bill, they should be primaried in 2 years. He came out clearly with that. And then us regular folk started calling our congressmen, our senators, and being like, you don't know, and posting on social media, we don't want any part of this garbage.
Right.
That was the factor, and which goes back to why the left primarily, of course, the swamp in general, but the left primarily hates free speech. That's why they want
Right.
to control these social media organizations. These social
Right.
media organizations worked in their favor for the last 8 years.
7 decades.
Yeah, I'm talking about like social media, like
Oh.
Facebook. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
you're right. But you're right. The mainstream media and social media. I used to feel like you. I used to feel so defeated for
Yeah.
the last few years. For the last 4 years, I said Donald Trump can never win. I said other than the Lord intervening on his behalf, there's no way that man can win because they control everything. I said they
Yeah.
control the mainstream media. They control big tech. They control the universities. They control the high schools. They control entertainment, the sports leagues. I said this man is fighting the biggest uphill battle I have ever seen in my life politically. I just didn't believe it would happen. The lawfare coming after him. I said, this man has no chance. I said, it would have to take the Lord intervening on his behalf. That's the only way that this man will get in office. And lo and behold, he won. He won convincingly, popular vote, and the electoral college vote. And we're seeing a cultural shift that's taking place. And it blows my mind. It's just stunning. But I'm telling you, one of the big factors was Elon Musk buying X. Because right now X is the biggest news platform in the world. That's where I go primarily. I go to some other outlets, but X is one of the main places I go to get my news. I'll see what's trending. I'll look at the individual channels or pages I follow or people I follow, and I'll see what they're saying about it and who are they linking to. And then I'll be able to kind of get a general idea. But you ain't gonna. I may click on Fox News every now and then. I do local news. I do Fox on occasion, but primarily I look at independent sources where I figure out what's going on.
Sure.
And that's why they want to shut down big tech so bad. But right now, it looks like Mark Zuckerberg and some of these guys seem to be coming around, whether it's self-preservation or whatever reason it is. They seem to be wanting to come around and say, hey, we want to get on board. Because what did Mark Zuckerberg say a few months ago? He came out and admitted that the Biden administration was coming down on them in order to get them to suppress the laptop information. He came clean with it. But was he seeing the tea leaves? Was he seeing the writing on the wall? Or has he really had a change of heart? I guess only time will tell.
Well, again, what's also like interesting to watch is after Trump won, the Democrats, like you had Van Jones and AOC saying, the right, they got all that while we were, worried about the mainstream media, the right wing, they were building their own media apparatus or whatever. And I'm saying to myself, we had to because you canceled us all out.
Thank you.
That's why what else? We were resourceful. We didn't sit up and try to, go tit for tat and say cancel them. We went and created our own stuff.
Yep. Because that was the only thing we could do. Like you said, we were in self-preservation mode.
We went and created our own stuff, and so they're over here like, oh, they got a monopoly and blah 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 blah, and they're so disingenuous now. The pundits on CNN, they are actually talking like we were who they were in 2020 or 2018 to 2019. Like, oh, we got to get off of X because it's so whatever. You got to get off of X because the wrong billionaire now owns it. And not exactly. Jack, whatever the guy was. I forget the last guy who owned it.
Yeah, I know Jack. Was it Jack Dorsey?
Yeah, Jack Dorsey or whatever. So you find when George Soros goes and buys all these radio stations or whatever, which is basically kind of mute because ain't nobody listening to the radio like that. So they're like, oh, they got podcasts. They're talking like we did something so novel and just ingenious. All we did was just use technology and found our own spaces. But
exactly.
To hear them talk about it now is like, who are these people? I mean, that like they lie to themselves. The coping, it is frightening. The level of how much they want to win, to the point that they lie to themselves
And they lie to the people. And there, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who will just hear what they say and they'll believe it at face value because they see these media. They see it's CNN. They have a large scale media platform. Why would they lie to us? Why would they make up a story? But if you're really paying attention, that's exactly what they're doing. They've been wrong time and time again. They are opinionated. Now, if they came out and came clean and said that we support the Democrats primarily, if they, instead of trying to say the most trusted news source in America or whatever, and try to feign the fact that they're unbiased, if they came clean, like MSNBC, they are what they are. They're not even trying to act like they're somewhere in the middle. They're not. But the mere fact that both of these news outlets are dying, like literally, like they're lost over 50%. Some places lost over 50% of their audience. It's like, but like Fox News is growing, and Newsmax and OAN, and people are going to X. News Nation, right? I love watching those guys. At the very least, you're going to get both sides. You're going to get both sides.
Right side broadcasting. Like all of these came up in 2020, bro. Like
because everybody else got canceled. Remember Parler, the social media outlet Parler, got attacked, and they after 2020, and they got completely destroyed because it was more conservative leaning.
Yeah,
that's what. But that's what went down. We knew that we couldn't trust these mainstream media outlets. So we're like, okay, let's find some other source. And when we found it, people started coming together because we know, I mean, all we have to do, we started off talking about this, was saying, what are we, like 10-0? You started saying it's clear. What did CNN tell you about the origins of COVID? What did MSNBC or ABC or CBS or NBC, whoever, what did they tell you about the origins of COVID? They said it seems like something natural. Tucker Carlson had some lady from China on who said that it looked like it was created in the lab. Multiple news outlets, news articles all said that the fact checkers came out and were trying to debunk what she said. A few months, lo and behold, a few months, a few years later, come to find out that it most likely was manufactured in that lab, like right down the street, as opposed to something natural. It's just how these people had no problem just following the narrative. You would be much more respected by the masses if you investigated your side of the house. But I guarantee you, if there's any real investigation done, you're going to find a money trail between the DNC and all of these mainstream media.
Absolutely. And that is why, again, they're still trying to control the narrative, and that's why they're panicking. Accuse your enemy of what I'm doing while I'm doing it. Oh, you know what I mean? And so that's why they're so ready, like, because the night of the election, they were in a pickle because they could not go against it because it was so decisive. Okay. Then when the popular vote came, oh my God, now they kind of had to backpedal and booty pop a little bit, right? So they couldn't contest it, right? You know why they couldn't contest it? You know why they couldn't contest it? Because they spent so much time talking about Donald Trump was contesting in the election. So what they did, what they calculated, I could see, was them saying, okay, this is now, okay, he won, so we need to go ahead and concede to that. And if we just concede to it, we can come out and say, hey, see, our elections are free and fair. Donald Trump just won fair and square. So we ain't even got to revisit 2020. You hear them? That's been the narrative.
Yep.
They were like, oh, now we can forget about 2020.
We move on because clearly the elections are fair. Clearly, right?
Clearly the elections are fair because Donald Trump just won. So therefore, we can put to bed 2020. And they were saying that on that night a lot because they know They're just afraid. They're deathly afraid of them being, as you said, the money trail going back to the media folks. That's why what's her name? What's her Morning Joe now went down to Mar-a-Lago.
Mika and Joe. Is it Mika,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And now I know Chink is not in bed like that. I don't think with the DNC that he would. I
don't
not.
think so either. I don't think so.
But what's killing me though is how quickly now everybody's coming to their senses. Oh, Donald Trump cannot be the Hitler. All of the rapists, because Chink and all them was called, he's a rapist, he's a this and he's a that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He was down at the event with Charlie Kirk this week. Did you see him?
Just last night. Yeah.
Okay, and so now he's all sensible. Okay, we're with the populist right and the populist left. So now they're looking at us, AOC. They're populists, wanting to copy us now, wanting to come and see what we did and how we built our apparatus, and should there be more left-wing podcasts. And
the difference is, see, this is what they don't understand. Joe Rogan started off very much on the left.
Yes.
But then he started having on his podcast, as time went on, he would have a Jocko Willink on, and then he would have like a Steven Crowder on his show.
Mm-hmm.
Then he'd have this is over years we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
He would have a Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, Jordan
Mm-hmm.
Peterson. He started having people on who thought differently than he did,
Mm-hmm.
and it started impacting his opinions
Mm-hmm.
because they made valid arguments and they had good discussions. Right. And then he supported Bernie Sanders in 2016, had Bernie Sanders on his show. Yeah. He had Tulsi Gabbard on his show.
Yeah.
So it's like on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
And then because Joe Rogan is just a different kind of cat. He's still very liberal. He's had Matt Walsh and those guys on there. He's still very liberal in his worldview. I mean, he's very much supportive of gay marriage and an adult person transitioning. But he just saw the left. It's like Bill Maher. Bill Maher is still very progressive in a lot of ways, but the left went completely nuts.
You're right.
With the kids, with the men and women's sports. He's like, what are you even talking about? Abortion up until, like I said, late term abortion and, not saving born alive. That's what these people, these guys were somewhat sensible, because I still think Bill Maher is like a nut half the time. Mm-hmm. God hater. The dude's a nut. But you still see the image bearer of God trying to peek out in so many areas, because the rationality starts to creep in and he can't deny it. And then he just starts speaking. Both these guys, Bill Maher has largely gained a more conservative audience. So is Joe Rogan. But the left can't create anything like that.
Right.
Because
that's not who they are.
They want to stifle speech, whereas Joe Rogan and Bill Maher will have people on there that completely disagree with them. And they can't build anything like that, the left. It's impossible.
Here's the thing. You know what the difference is? Joe Rogan, Bill Maher, they're actual thinkers. They're intellectual honesty. That's what draws them to the right, because we think, okay? Yep. And that's how that was the portal. Thinking people, come, you know what I'm saying? And that's how Joe Rogan can have these opposing opinions, because he's a thinker. Yep. He's a thinker. He's intellectual.
And both of them are comedians. Both of them are comedians. So being offensive is a part of what they do, because it can be funny. But then the left was all about, oh my goodness, that just hurt my feelings. How dare you talk about somebody being fat? Or how dare you talk about somebody's skin color?
And you know who else? Dave Chappelle, right? They are intellectually honest, and as you say, they get that comedic tone or part of them just makes them curious and makes them, again, intellectually honest and open. The left can, and that's what's so funny. They're looking and trying to thinking how they can duplicate what has happened on the right in terms of the populist movement. They can't do it because that's not who they are. They are the left-wing agenda is connected to communism, and communism has infiltrated the country through these different personalities and in academia and into our Congress. And so it's part of the script. that they have to remain, and that's why they're still doubling down on some of the you hear the View and all of them still doubling down. It's really weird to watch them. It's like their whole world is falling apart.
Because it literally is.
It,
Because once they, like you were talking about George Stephanopoulos, basically settling out of court. ABC News was the same ones that had the debate with Trump and Kamala.
Yep.
And people were saying, man, I don't know about that. They were fact checking Trump. They didn't fact check her. It's like, and I know it's like everything that they did in order to attack Trump, in order to tear him down, backfired. Everything.
Correct.
Everything that they did, from the lawfare, trying to take him off the ballots. Somebody tried to kill him. I'm not saying it was necessarily them, but I wouldn't be shocked. This is just my personal opinion. I wouldn't be shocked that there were some ties. But again, this is just Eric's personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that they tried, like I said, taking him off the ballots, tried to bankrupt the man, tried to lock him up. Everything that they tried backfired. You know why? Because the American people, now there's times where we're not that bright, but we ain't that dumb. Yeah. We can see the writing on the wall. We can see the deception being played. And they made him a sympathetic character. Correct. All their attacks on him made black folks, especially the brothers, came out and like we doubled the vote from last time. The percentage doubled the amount of the black vote. Mm-hmm. A lot of us came out and was like, you know, what have black folks been saying forever as far as in the legal system? Man, we're always being victimized and mistreated and all this kind of stuff. Then you had this man go through the same thing. Basically, mm-hmm. that's what made so many people say, man, I like this brother. And I'm listening to him. People mm-hmm. back in the day, even us, we admitted we were a little timid at times admitting that we were Donald Trump supporters. At least I was in 2016. In 2016, I wasn't big on letting the world know. I voted for him. I voted for that man 3 times. Both of us voted for him 3 times. Yeah. 2020, I was more vocal. Mm-hmm. 2024, people started seeing like, okay, just like we talked about in the beginning, mm-hmm. more and more people started, like you said, the coast is clear now mm-hmm. to say that you support him. Because mm-hmm. now he's got all these different people. He's got the RFKs. He got the Tulsi Gabbards. He got the Vivek Ramaswamis. He's got the Byron Donalds. He's got all these people, Dana Whites. He's got all these John Jones, all these UFC fighters coming up there giving the man props and all this kind of stuff. People are like, okay, the dance, you know, people doing the Trump dance and all this kind of stuff. Now people saw what we saw mm-hmm. 8 years ago, 12. Where are we at? Yeah. Since 2016, people are seeing now what we saw a long time ago. We're innovators in this mess mm-hmm. right here. These people are Johnny and Jane come lately. They're just now figuring all this stuff out.
But you know what? I forgot what I was about to say.
I'm sorry, me running my mouth.
No, you're fine. You're going just where you were going with that. He's the culture now. Like what you said. People have because it's like you said, we're not dumb or anything like that. We were just not paying attention, right? We were busy living life, right? And we were listening to the media. But then when they came for him so hard, like you said, it backfired on them because it made us say, well, wait a second, when you come for someone so hard, I'm gonna take a second look like, why are you coming for them so hard?
I had a boy, one of my homies, I'll keep this short, I promise. Mm-hmm. One of my homies hated Donald Trump for the last 7 years, could not stand him. Every post that he posted on Facebook was mocking him, making fun of him, talking about his sneakers. I mean, you name it. Mm-hmm. Every post he had. But then I noticed over the course of like this last year, he wasn't commenting on him at all. Mm-hmm. At all. Mm-hmm. So, but yet he knew where I stood. I'm not saying I convinced him otherwise. I know there's mm-hmm. some people that I've managed to convince to reconsider their political perspective. Yeah, exactly. So I reached out to him shortly after he got shot. It may have been August or somewhere like that. So I said, man, I noticed you hadn't mentioned Donald Trump lately. I said, you wouldn't be considering voting for him, would you? And he responded, as a matter of fact, I would, Eric. I am considering that. He said, the way the media is coming after this man, He said it makes me think, why are they coming after him like that?
Correct.
And yeah, so people out there started, like, light bulbs started going off over a lot of folks' heads.
It goes back to what you said with why they settled. ABC settled.
Right.
Because they don't want that discovery smoke, maybe of no lawsuit, no real lawsuit going to court.
Not at all.
They don't want the discovery smoke. And guess what the media is saying about this? Oh, they're kissing the ring. They're just, afraid of Donald Trump now because he's going to do lawfare against him. He's going to come in. And I'm saying to myself, you guys are so dumb. Accuse your enemy of what you're doing while you're doing it. You're now telling on yourself.
Yep.
What? You're now telling on yourself because he's going to do lawfare against them. No, how about they settled because they don't want the discovery?
And they know that. They know that. All that they're talking is just that public. They want that out in the public. Oh, it's all about Trump. He's trying to come after them. But they're thinking, they're shaking in their boots because they don't want the same thing to happen to them. And it will, most likely.
Exactly. Because as you say, the money trail, follow the money.
Yep.
Follow the money. In the same way that we saw Kamala paid Roland Martin, Al Sharpton, Beyonce, Oprah. We're going to find some of these personalities getting greased. If not getting greased, there's some sort of collaboration between them.
Where does $1.5 billion go in 12 weeks?
Right.
Yeah, there are a lot of folks got paid off.
Right.
A lot of people.
Right. A lot of people. And I just don't buy all of this, oh my God, we didn't know. Just like in July, oh, we didn't know Joe Biden was, oh, did you see him? Like,
yeah. It's so disingenuous, and it's such an insult to their supporters. It ain't an insult to us because we knew better. Right. We stopped trusting them a long time ago. But it's their people, the people that still watch CNN and ABC, I don't trust any of them.
Yeah.
The people that still watch them, they're the ones that are probably like, oh my gosh. Like my brother sent me this video right here, this the Young Turks video we're talking about right now. He sent me that video. My response was, man, that was a right-wing I thought that was a right-wing conspiracy theory. I said, man, we've been saying that for years, bro. I said, and late. I think, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying they're late. Like you said, they're late to the party.
It's the truth. And it's not like any of us are smarter than these folks. We just pay attention. We just pay attention, and we try to be consistent with our worldview. And we can see that we saw through the lies. We saw all the times where they said one thing and then it turned out to be something completely different. And folks like Cenk, and I think Anna Kasparian might be a little more legit because she had the sexual assault attempt on her that happened to her. I think, and she thought that Kyle Rittenhouse, was like basically some young kid who was just running amok until she was challenged with the truth of that. And she was able to come out and admit that she was wrong about her initial impressions. She said when she thought that she was sexually assaulted, she came out and talked about it on air. And she said she got a lot of pushback because it was a homeless dude who tried to sexually assault her.
Yeah.
She got a lot of pushback because these folks were like, you're like, what, do you hate homeless people? She's like, what are you talking about? The whole transgender thing, saying birthing people instead of saying moms or women. She was like, I'm a woman. I'm a mom. Like, I'm not a birthing person. I think her transformation, for lack of a better term, is a little more organic and real, or at least I have a tendency to believe that.
Yeah, for her.
She started seeing more of the insanity that was coming from the left. They lost their minds. But I think 2023, 2024, like with Bud Light, the Bud Light putting that trans dude on their beer can, and all these companies going woke, Disney, and them losing billions of dollars because people like us were like, if you're going to go that route, you're not getting my business.
Right.
And then the election was like nail in the coffin. I know they're not dead. I'm not saying that. They're still plotting and planning. But as far as the cultural impact, dying
Right.
largely was the
Yeah.
2020 election. Trump winning, like we keep repeating, Trump winning the Electoral College, winning the popular vote, him being the cultural figure that he was, that we all knew he was 10 years ago. Trump was loved by the left.
Right.
They loved
Correct.
him. But as soon as he said he's running as a Republican, then he became public enemy number one.
And even as early as summer 2015, when he was floating, becoming a candidate,
Yes.
he was on The View, and they was sopping him up like a biscuit. Okay, as early as 2015, they were, hey Trump, but they didn't think he was a serious candidate, and all of a sudden he becomes this, this boogeyman or whatever. But basically, it was a huge win because that's what we needed. The left had the culture, but they have lost it and have lost credibility with it. And matter of fact, and when we get done here, I want to read a tweet that I made after the election in response to this cry. Oh, he's going to do lawfare against us. Oh, he's going to, weaponize the justice system and, asking, you're going to prosecute Liz Cheney and all of these sorts of things. Again, accuse your enemy of what you're doing while you're doing. That's a classic, what is it? I forget who said it, if it was.
That was
somebody.
He's the one that.
I think it was a communist who said that, because it's very in the realm of, Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals, 48
That's what I was thinking. Saul Alinsky. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, Rules for Radicals. That whole strategy. That's what they do, and so they're just running frantic. But I was saying that in response to all of this is that it's not him seeking to weaponize, it's justice, and they're trying to poison the well.
Bottom line, justice.
You want to continue on with this video?
Yeah, let's roll. Let's watch a few more, because clearly we're not getting too far in this video. So let's pull this bad boy up and see how far we can get, and then we'll move on to some of your other clips.
Government, and this is like when the withdrawal was happening. So he gives that quote to the Washington Post, and get a load of this. Anthony Blinken hits him up on the phone and just starts chiding him for having the audacity to say something even a little critical about Biden. But later, Biden himself called Smith to apologize, and that was allegedly the only time he spoke to Biden throughout his presidency. Okay, and that was like an ongoing issue. That's what you hear over and over again, that people couldn't get any access to the president, Democrats in particular, and that when it came to things like cabinet meetings, they were very rare. And we're going to get to those details in just a minute.
Sorry, but I got to do it. Told you.
Right.
So back in 2020 in the primary, I said, look, I've got very serious concerns about Biden having dementia. And I even did this tweet that people hated so much, the people as in Democratic Party, reporters, etc. Hashtag dementia should be trending. And, they're like, you're going below the belt. You're trying to help Bernie with this nonsense rumors. I'm like, guys, look, he can't remember words. He's struggling in public to get out thoughts, etc. Right? And we had evidence back then. And of course, every Democrat and every reporter in Washington said, outrageous, scandalous. Look at how dirty these progressives are, trying to help Bernie Sanders by implying that there's something wrong with the beloved Joe Biden. Well, the minute he got into office, his staffers are like, there's something wrong with Joe Biden. He's in mental decline. We have to protect him. We have to shield him from these people. We have to spend hours and hours prepping him for simple things because he can't remember anything. They knew from day one. How many times are you going to see the Democratic establishment lie to you before you realize, oh, right, the next time they tell you something, it's also a lie?
You can pause it.
Yeah, let me just speak to this. What is killing me about these guys and burning my biscuits is them lifting up Bernie Sanders like he's some real populist, like he's not a communist, but more so, like he's not a part of the establishment, because you bowed right down and sold out your supporters, Mr. Sanders.
Oh yeah, he knew. It was evidence was clear that the Democratic Party cheated on him. They cheated him, given the answers to the debate to Hillary Clinton that was in the emails, and yet he bowed the knee at the DNC and went ahead and supported Hillary Clinton. He's part of the problem as well.
Exactly. This guy is delusional, Chink, and he's thinking that has sort of moral high ground here as he's criticizing the establishment, and then as he comes over and try to feign to be, kind of independent and, welcoming to. Well, he has to now because he's not going to have, any credibility. Number one, and he's not going to have any content. Okay, because he was basically kind of echoing. Criticizing the left, but he's not going to have any, he can't criticize Trump anymore because the culture has shifted, is what I'm trying to say. All of his arguments, because he spent a lot of time demonizing and fear mongering around Donald Trump. So he can't do that anymore. So now he has to come make nice. Now we need to talk about, how we can work together. We're really more to, the same than we are different, all of that. Well, why weren't you thinking that back in October? Why wasn't that your narrative in October? You were echoing all of these things about the lawfare and everything that the media was telling us. So they were lying about Biden, but they were telling the truth about Trump up until Trump won. Now all of a sudden you ready to kind of consider hanging out with conservatives and caucusing with us. I mean,
to some degree, I'll give him this much. I've seen him appear on the Tim Pool podcast before the election, like last year. I've seen him appear on Pat Bet-David's podcast a couple of, maybe a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen him appear on shows that were more right-leaning. He's been at events, more conservative-minded events before.
Okay.
What gets me, I don't have an issue with that. What gets me is, where did you watch the election on election night? What were you watching as far as the coverage?
Oh, I swear I can't remember. I don't remember what I was watching. I think
I was watching.
Wait, I think I may have been watching one of the channels. I can't remember. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was watching Pat Bet-David. He had a whole PB. Yeah, he had a whole breakdown. He had Candace Owens on there and a few other people. But I was watching that, and they were analyzing the numbers, and they were the first ones basically who came out and said that Kamala can't win. Trump won. And when they came out and said that, Cenk was talking via satellite, and the look on his face when he found out that Trump won, the dude was so dejected and sad. For a moment, I felt sorry. I felt a little sorry for him because he looked like he had lost it. He looked like a 10-year-old kid that just lost his best friend.
We need to find that clip and play it.
I'm telling you, it was yeah, right. I'm telling you, he looked so sad. It was hilarious. And he was just like, Trump is a criminal. He's this, he's that. He said
that the night of the election.
Yes. He said all of that. He went off and like, you better hold him accountable. And so to see him trying to play nice these days, that's what just makes me like, I'm not sure about this. It could be sincere. I don't know.
I'm not convinced with him so much. I think it's more strategic in him trying to, because I can backpedal and concede that he has been in conservative spaces and so on and so forth, but he still has been very much a irrational, Trump deranged echo of the leftist narratives, the establishment leftist narratives that he's constantly criticizing here. And so that is why he loses credibility with me.
No, I'm with you on that.
Compared to Anna. And again, Bernie Sanders is our populist. Like, Bernie Sanders is an establishment as well. And again, I think part of the infiltration of communism into this country. And unlike Trump, which is the irony here, unlike Trump, he actually galvanized a real base that demanded him and came against the establishment, and he stood against the establishment himself. Bernie Sanders did no such thing. He tucked his tail and he ran, and he abandoned his supporters.
So you can't say that. You can't say that with Donald Trump.
No, you cannot.
Trump was a man on a mission, and there was no stopping him. Like literally,
because it was authentic.
Yeah, you knew it was an uphill battle for anybody running against him. When he had his interview with Tucker Carlson, took place at the exact same time as the Republicans' primary when they were all when they were debating.
Yeah.
He beat them in the ratings. There were way more people watching this interview with Tucker Carlson. He didn't even I'm not even going to show up there.
Correct.
Y'all know what I got to offer.
Right.
I wasn't, honestly, I love Trump's policies, but I did not believe that he would be allowed to win by the establishment, by the rhinos. So I was going for Vivek. I was like, this dude right here, this brother right here is smart. Yeah. He's a fresh face. He loves Trump's policies. I'm like, he's younger. This is a guy we need to be supporting.
Trump with tact. He's Trump 2.0 with actual tact.
And sharper. Exactly. And sharper. Because I've never seen him stumbled or fumble in an interview. He always has a response. Always has a response. A solid response. Sharp as attack. I was like, I'm supporting my man right here.
And he's aware. He's self-aware, and he reads the room. He reads the room perfectly. Yes. You know what I mean? And that's where sometimes I think Donald Trump misses it. He doesn't read the room well. He's just into what he wants to say when he wants to say it, which I appreciate as well.
He's a 78-year-old New York billionaire. He's used to getting his way. He's used to people listening to him, and he's an alpha, and he's an alpha male on top of all that. Yeah. Trump ain't trying to bow down to anybody. All that talk about Elon Musk and all this kind of stuff, man. And then people say Trump is the hardest worker in the room. And when they say that about him, you can see it. 2, 3 campaign stops in a day, spent all day campaigning on a Saturday, all day campaigning, turn around and go to a UFC event across the country. Man, Joe Biden would be dead trying to follow that man's.
But listen, Vivek ain't want to be messing with either. He's an alpha as well. See, that's what I'm saying, because that's what's so brilliant about him. And I feel like, the conservative bench of MAGA first, America First Republicans is strong. The Democrats have nobody. And the real thing funny thing, and that's what's scaring me, is that they're going to try to infiltrate and weasel their way over into us and dilute us.
Yeah, that's very possible.
On this, let's work together type of thing. But I'm gonna need a pound of flesh and the people to say we were wrong, we lied. Okay.
Yes.
And I need Trump to pursue lawsuits against people slandering him, calling him a rapist, and all of these things that were not proven.
I agree.
That's what I want. I
agree 100%. Now, if you're Zuckerberg, come on, let's talk. But the fact that you deplatformed all these doctors who are speaking out against who had a different perspective when it came down to the virus, Google, you too. Let's come over here. We can have a conversation, but don't think that you're going to get away with what you did for over these last 4 to 8 years. You're not going to get away with it. But we can figure something out. I'm not going to cut your head off, but you're going to have to give me that left hand, that right hand.
I don't object, because again, like I said, there's a cultural shift, and I just kind of feel like people were caucusing with the left because the lefts were bullies.
Yeah, they were afraid. They were intimidated.
And they would shake you down, and then they were so effective at indoctrinating the generations that passed from our generation forward, especially. It was like a super fast track. It began with our parents in terms of it really becoming this cultural phenomenon with the 1960s free love and all of these other things.
All of that.
So I just feel like people are feeling liberated, and I do believe a lot of it is genuine. But we cannot forget there are these ideological differences, and we need to point out the differences clearly between communism and like what this guy's here literally thinking that that Americans are there's a populist movement of MAGA people that would I'm gonna say even MAGA people, but just a populist movement that would back Bernie Sanders, right? I don't know.
No, you're right.
Not in the age of Trump now. and now that everything is clear about what Trump's policies actually are, and we're able to actually see them to fruition, plus the team that he has assembled, you know?
The America First folks, we ain't trying to support a communist, a socialist. We're not going to support a dude like that whose mindset is take away your freedoms. He was all for the transitioning of the kids. Him, AOC, all these people are trying to probably position themselves to run. America showed that we need somebody more moderate because Trump isn't as conservative as I am. I wish he was way more conservative. Trump is more of a moderate than I mean, considerably.
Yeah.
And but America ain't going for all that craziness. And but Bernie Sanders is still a part of that. So yeah, Cenk is just he's delusional because ain't no way we're gonna get behind some clown. We can have conversations. We can try not to hunt each other down and not kill each other. Of course, figuratively speaking, like when I said about the hand, that's all figurative speaking. Just for anybody listening out there trying to shut a brother's channel down. I'm just trying to get revived over here. But yeah, it's good. We can have conversations. We can go back to the way things used to be, the 90s, early 2000s, where we can disagree politically, but nobody's trying to completely silence the other side. Because that's what we've been dealing with for the last, I would say, even more than 8 years, even during Obama's administration. Yeah. So, all right, let's get a move on here. You ready? It's on you.
Want to continue with this one, or you want to move on to the next?
We'll watch one more clip and then we'll jump on to the next one. We'll see if there's anything.
Mental state in 2020. They massively lied about it in 2024. They lied about it while he was in office. Time and time again.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the cabinet meetings, and we'll do a little comparative analysis between Biden's cabinet meetings, or the frequency of them, versus Obama and Trump. So he did not hold very many cabinet meetings, which is insane, especially at such a chaotic time. Remember, he came in as the pandemic was still happening. Now, interactions between Biden and many of his cabinet members were relatively infrequent and often tightly scripted. At least one cabinet member stopped requesting calls with the president because it was clear that such requests wouldn't be welcome, a former senior cabinet aide said. So Biden had a total of 9 cabinet meetings
in 4 years.
First term. 9. Now, we don't know how many cabinet meetings presidents typically have, so let's take a look at Obama and Trump. Well, Obama had 19. Trump had 25.
Yeah, and I remember people criticizing Trump for not having enough press conferences, not having enough meetings. He did 25. Biden only did 9. I'm going to say something here that's also super damning of our national media. No one broke this story for 4 years. So apparently, Biden's entire staff knew that he was in mental decline for 4 years, and not one reporter or news organization, mainstream media, could break this story.
Let me switch this over here. The thing is, and we keep talking about this, but I don't think it could be hyped on or harped on enough, is the fact that nobody else broke this story for 4 years. And you can't tell me, you will never convince me that nobody at CNN or ABC, NBC, CBS, or MSNBC saw that this, or any of these newspapers, the Washington Post or the New York Times, LA Times, you can't tell me that none of those people saw that he was a shell of his former self. You can't tell me that. But it just demonstrates and shows me clearly that these folks were in on the fix.
And that's what they just said, right? He's like, when you go against them, and your punishment depends on how much they think you can influence something. So these are just the progressives. We can just call them radicals or whatever, and we'll just ostracize them. They don't get invited to the parties. They don't get, invited to the DNC and things like that, right? But if you are a Seth Rich, that staffer that I told you about, who provided that WikiLeaks stuff, allegedly you can get unalived. Okay. So that is why this was kept under wraps. This again, if I wish I should have been a lawyer, because this is a tip off to me. This is a tip off to me that there is some real tight consequences for going against them. Because if that was a Republican or any other time in history, something like this would have been news. A lot of the Hunter laptop stuff, all of that would have been news. That's news. Like, you would die to break that story. And there was a girl that was on ABC when the Hunter laptop thing actually broke, and they squelched it, and she came and basically whistleblowed and was upset. She was like, "I had that story. I think
you're right. You have the story right, but the individual who said it is different. I think you're getting it mixed up with the Jeffrey Epstein case.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yes, Jeffrey Epstein.
There was an ABC News reporter who was caught on a hot mic, saying that she had that story years ago, but ABC crushed it. Yes. But there was also a former CBS investigator who, the chick with the short haircut, used to work for Fox News. I can't remember.
I remember her. Yes.
She said that she had the Hunter Biden laptop story early on, but CBS News did not want that story to come out, especially when we were dealing with the Twitter files. When Elon was putting all that information out there, she said that she had an interview set up with Elon Musk, a live interview, and CBS News was like, no, because we don't want a live interview because he may say something that we can't control. And she was like, that's what we want.
Right.
And then they went after her and got her emails and got all of her sources and stuff like that. So now she's independent, doing her own thing.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then the other thing, Tucker Carlson interviewed, his name is Tony Barbarino, I think. Bobolinsky, exactly. The Hunter's partner, telling us all the tea about the money laundering with Burisma and all these other foreign adversaries,
China,
and allies. Had a whole 2-hour interview. Nobody's picked up on it. Nobody's said nothing about it. So again, this verifies to me, if I were a lawyer, I'd have a private investigator trying to get me the evidence of what I'm suspecting here, because these people will hurt you. Okay, they will hurt you if you go against them. And there's as I was trying to say earlier, but I forgot and got interrupted. There's bodies associated with Barry Soetoro. There's bodies associated with the Clintons, and we don't know. We already know what's going on. I think there's pedophilia on the human trafficking.
Allegedly.
Okay. On some of the
I'm
other.
with you on that. I'm with you on those. On your opinions. Those alleged opinions, I agree with you 100%. Because these, now after all the things that have come out over these last few years, I don't think anything would surprise me. Like seriously, if we found out this about Obama, we found out this about Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and found out this about Joe Biden. To me, after all the things that we've learned, what they did with what my thoughts are when it comes to the pandemic, in my personal opinion, completely planned, every aspect of it. In my honest opinion, there's the entire response to COVID in and of itself, because we found out that they were doing gain of function research, and then all of a sudden they were all talking about getting rid of Donald Trump, trying to figure out a way, because I remember hearing Bill Maher say, and I repeat this all the time, he said, the economy is doing so well, the only way you can get him out of office is with a recession. And he's like, and he looked at his audience and he says, I'm sorry to say it, folks, but that's what we may have. That's how things may end up. That's the only way we can get rid of him. And what ends up happening shortly thereafter, I think it was 6 months thereafter, then we started hearing about this virus going around killing people in China. And then before you know it, what, 2 weeks to slow the spread. Then it became over a year-long lockdown. I honestly believe there was a conspiracy. Everything that happened with Donald Trump, everything that happened with Donald Trump was an orchestrated plan. From the Charlottesville reaction to the reaction to George Floyd, the COVID response, the riots of 2020, the 2020 election. I truly believe that it was all orchestrated. Why? Because Donald Trump was a wrench. He was the monkey wrench that was thrown into the machine.
Yeah.
He was going to upend everything that they were planning. This one world government, all the stuff that our involvement with NATO, everything that this man was seeking to do went against the mainstream establishment's agenda and plan. So they're like, how do we make sure that this doesn't happen again? And the only reason it didn't happen again in 2024 was because of all the lawsuits, the laws that were shifted and changed, again, going against all their mail-in ballots and all that kind of nonsense. And the fact that the RNC was ready on election night with attorneys all across the country, ready to file lawsuits. People who volunteered their whole time. I heard Lara Trump talking on I think it was on the Benny Johnson show. She was also on PBD. She said we had hundreds of lawyers in every state, especially in the swing states, ready to file lawsuits at the moment we saw something that looked a little bit fishy. Judicial Watch was filing lawsuits for years, getting laws switched or getting reversed back to where they should have been. We spent years getting prepared for 2024, and there was even sparks and evidence that they were trying to do it again this year, but they got shut down. They got shut down.
And they did get us. I think they did steal from Carrie Lake allegedly.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised.
I really believe
not at all.
I really believe they're still.
Arizona is a mess. I would love to see a mass investigation into the voting in California. I would love to see that because I heard they were still counting votes last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane to me.
And you know what? I think our God, there's this portal that's open, that's seemingly dispensing, hearing the cries of his people, hearing the cries of probably people around the world that's being persecuted, who are looking to this country for a true refuge and solace, not like the migrants that they have coming over here, to be disruptors. That election 2020, Fonnie Willis, she's moving in pride. Pride goes before the fall. She wants to go and challenge this thing, right? Let her go ahead and make a little motion. Let her say the wrong thing. All we need is one of the other lawyers. Right now, everybody's saying, "Oh, it's gonna, it's dead in the water, whatever." Yeah, it's dead in the water. To me, that's a partial victory. We need somebody to respond to her motion and say, we have found evidence of actual election fraud. And this whole lawsuit is a cover-up, has been the part of a cover-up. And if we can get someone to say that, who has the evidence. But here's the deal. They just got to go back to those hearings from 2020. I mean, it's so much exculpatory evidence there, Eric.
But we have the people now. We have the people in place who will actually look at that.
I hope
and
so.
I think that'll be, and if they did that, that would almost completely exonerate Donald Trump of like all of the accusations, like everything. People would be like, we were told that there was no evidence and that he was lying and that he was trying to be a tyrant and trying to overturn a free and fair election. These were all the talking points that they spit out they've been spitting out for the last 4 years. And if that comes about, I honestly believe that's what's going to happen sometime over the next 4 years. I truly believe we're going to find out.
Because again, everyone is still trying to, it's almost like they're still afraid to be called a conspiracy theorist, to basically say that those voting machines were hackable in one of those hearings we saw the white hat hackers break right into it during the runoff election between Warnock and Kelly Loeffler that day during the hearings. Then you had the data analysts telling you clocking the fraud, the clear switching of votes. Not to mention my eyewitness.
They're afraid because of that lawsuit that Fox News conceded to. Remember when Fox News, bowed the knee to what was one of the voting? Which was it? One of the voting machine?
Yeah. Dominion.
They're afraid because wasn't that like I don't know how, that was a pretty big lawsuit that they caved.
But again, they bowed the knee because why didn't they go and get the evidence? That's all they had to do, was go and actually get the evidence from those hearings. And so
I never understood why they caved, but I think maybe they were even associated with it because Fox News back then was acting like they were bound down to these cats. Like they didn't want, like they were, with the exception of Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, he was even being a little sketchy then when it came down to the 2020 election. He wasn't really talking about the machines and the problems that were going on. But what's that one lady? I always forget her name. The blonde chick is at night. Laura Ingraham. With the exception of Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity primarily, not too many people were willing to really be openly supportive of Donald Trump.
But you know what? And I believe what you're saying there in the sense that they could have, if they wanted to fight, they could have, because you know what I mean? But again, it was too there because they're in the tank. Fox, that whole crowd is in the tank. They're like, oh, we don't mind paying $1 million because basically to pay this basically validates that narrative that it was no election fraud. So we would rather take this L so that Donald Trump can look like a person that stole the all that can appear to be true, because this is going to feed the narrative, right? They are so committed. They will do that. They're so committed to this narrative. But now, I just hope that they do go the full mile and not just say, because now the talking point and the acceptable talking point around election fraud is the Hunter Biden laptop. That was the election interference. No.
Or the impact of like social media companies.
Yeah.
Google. Like, you ever heard that one dude? I think his last name is like Epstein. He does research as far as the impact that Google has on people, what you get, the information you get, and how they can sway an election. Now, some type of outside Twitter files, some type of outside manipulation like that, with them suppressing people, deplatforming Trump. People will openly admit that. They'll say, something like that went down. But when it came down to the actual votes, people don't want to touch that one. They're afraid to touch that one.
And that's what I'm saying. The proof has got to come out, man. And they feel like, okay, well, now Trump is in office. We could just kind of move on and let bygones be bygones. No, they slandered this man. They said him on the Find the Votes call that he was trying to ask them to find. That was not true.
Or like manufactured votes or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
He was asking them to find the votes that was stolen.
Right.
That evidence, all the evidence that they presented in those hearings, he's like, I have this evidence. And then if you listen to the call, they're in there doing this rigmarole about, not wanting to sit down with his lawyers so that they could show them their tally and this evidence in that call. But anyway, continue on with the video.
No, you can pull up that one video if you want to jump to the
Roland
Martin. You want to do that one?
Yeah, let's look at Roland. Let's watch him have a fit.
Lord have mercy.
I'm gonna go ahead.
I'm glad I took my blood pressure medication earlier.
All right.
This one and get everybody to weigh in about 15 seconds each. This is from the Daily Mail. This is a piece from Emily Goodwin. Very interesting. The headline reads in part, how vengeful Jill Biden is urging depressed Joe to burn the whole thing down in their final days. It reads in part, Jill views Democrats on Capitol Hill, the wider party, the Obamas, staff inside and outside the White House, the media, and all of Washington, D.C. with such misguided resentment that I can't imagine she isn't encouraging Joe to burn the whole thing down despite his better judgment. That, according to an insider. Lindy, to you first. 15 seconds each, roughly. Your thoughts on what Emily Gooden had to say?
She's totally right. And we can see that happen when Joe forcefully came out inside of insider trading. It took him 50 years to get to that point. But you know why he did that? Because he still has a bone to pick with Nancy Pelosi. He's still very angry that he got summarily pushed aside. And he's finally saying that no one in Congress should be able to trade on the inside information. And you know who's notorious for that? Nancy Pelosi.
Absolutely. The Pelosi tracker online.
Boy, we got to talk about more Democrat Party infighting and drama, because Miss Lindy Lee, who was DNC finance woman, right? Her job was to raise money on behalf of Democrats. Miss Lindy Lee has been on a crusade against Democrats because she feels betrayed, right? Her and her donors who want the Democrats to be held accountable for wasting billions of their dollars. Okay, Kamala Harris raised about $1.5 billion. It ended up $20 million in debt. Okay, what Miss Lindy Lee is calling for is the kryptonite of the Democrat Party, which is accountability. Right? They cannot stand to be held accountable for their actions. Right? They fear that the most because they have their attack dog, Mr. Roland Martin, right, coming out and going after Miss Lindy Lee for trying to actually help the Democrat Party, because that's essentially what she's doing, right? But Lindy Lee has found out real quickly what everybody knew about the Democrats for the longest time now, which is that if you disagree with the Democrats even 1%, especially if you come out and turn against them as a Democrat, okay, yeah, they'll throw you away real quick, like a used condom, okay? Quick, fast, and that's what's happened to
people have called me the W word. I don't know what we're allowed to say, but you can fill in the blank.
We're uncensored. Let's say it. Say it. Say what the word was.
Am I allowed to?
Yeah.
Well, they called me a whore. They called me the C word. They asked for me to be deported. And you can just search for my name in those terms on X and you'll see a bunch of them. So, all these so-called Democrats, the party of inclusion, the party of diversity, masks off. And it's even worse because they pretend to occupy the moral high ground. They pretend to be, so loving and caring and embracing of diversity. But all of a sudden, when I dare to utter any criticisms of the goddess Kamala Harris, I get ostracized. Me, after having raised tens of millions of dollars for the party, my donors are pissed. They raised $2.5 billion across.
Okay.
All right.
So much there, right? She is like unleashed. Okay, it's like she's got freedom. Like she is.
Now she was now this is the one I'm probably most skeptical of.
Mm-hmm.
She was a donor or a fundraiser. She went around gathering these donations for the Harris campaign and was fully on board despite seeing red flags left and right. Now, all of a sudden, but I do believe that there's some validity to what she's saying, or what Greg Foreman, Black Conservative Perspective, was saying, was that she's angry now because I've heard her talk on various podcasts, speaking her mind, coming clean about what the Democratic Party is all about. So I do believe that she looks at them as like maybe they gave her a bad name, a bad reputation. She helped raise all this money. And then they were turning around giving tens of millions of dollars to Beyonce and Meg Thee Stallion and all this kind of stuff, and basically trying to buy support from from Hollywood. But now she's everywhere on Fox News. Now that's what makes me look at her like, now you're being outspokenly critical. Now you're being critical of these people. I don't know how sincere she is. I could be wrong. But those are just my thoughts.
But that is a good question. And I think if these people are real journalists, they would say, would you feel the same way if Kamala would have won? Would we have known any of this had Kamala won? Cenk, Lindy Lee?
Yep.
Would you be feeling this way if Kamala won?
Nope. They would just go along to get along.
Know any of the things that are coming out now if Kamala had won.
And even adding to your point that you made earlier, heck no, we wouldn't have known any of this because they would all be terrified of what happens if I come out and I speak on this. Because even Elon said, if Trump doesn't win, he said, I'm effed. Like he said,
Mhm.
he knew if
Yeah.
Trump didn't win, he knew that they would come after Tesla. They would come after his
Yep.
space program. They would come out, especially they would come after X. They would come
Yes.
after his social media because that's the voice of the people right now. That's where
Mhm.
people can go, voice their opinion, hear multiple sides of the equation,
Mhm.
and they need to control. They need to tighten the reins, the control on the people out there, because as long as the people are free and we can exchange ideas, they know that their side cannot survive in that atmosphere. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm wondering, I don't, would she be out speaking? Would any of these people be outspoken, talking like they did if Kamala Harris had won? I highly doubt it.
Right, right. And then to speak to what they again accuse your enemy of what you're doing while you're doing it. The reason that they wanted to say, oh, he's gonna put people persecute people for having the wrong opinion or whatever. No, I literally was feeling like very concerned, and I didn't even really want to do content. I had an opportunity to do
I remember
that, and I was thinking like, I don't want to do that because I don't know what's going to happen here, and they will come for us. And I know that I was there on J6. They had to come for me. My phone happened to die that day, so I don't know what, but you know what I mean. So I was just kind of like, you know. So they are the ones that persecute people. Anyway,
no doubt.
carry on.
Super PAC in the campaign. It's my responsibility. It's my duty of care to ask what the hell happened with that money? Why did we spend it? Why did we spend millions of dollars on 5-star hotels for campaign staffers? Why did we spend $500,000 essentially bribing Al Sharpton moments before he interviewed Kamala? These are legitimate questions, but no, in the cult, you can't ask questions.
Yeah.
Leaving the Democratic Party or even questioning the Democratic Party, it's like leaving a cult. It's terrifying. Pierce, I don't want that. I don't want to be a part of this tent. I don't want to be a part of this craziness anymore. They're accelerating my rightward shift. I don't want this nonsense. It's just crazy. And honestly, they're shrinking their tent. They're basically telling me they're pushing me to bring my tens of millions of dollars that I raise and can continue to raise to a different team that treats me better, that treats me with just common decency, that doesn't call.
You catch that?
What's that?
They're begging me to take my money that I'm raising to a different team. So she might be like saying jockeying for position over. I'm gonna raise money for the Republicans now.
Man, let me tell you something. What she said there was so profound. Like, I don't agree with her bribing Al Sharpton. That clown, he's on board anyway. He's just looking for another opportunity to make money. And he'll go with the left, whatever they have to say. But what she said about the cults, she's like, it's terrifying.
Yes.
I think it nailed the point you were making. These people are afraid to speak out against these people. Now they feel it could be that they feel safe now.
They
because
do.
The guy in charge, for all the lies, for all the Hitler allegations and the tyrant and the dictator and the fascist allegations against this man, they know that was a bunch of garbage. That's just not. They know that. They know. Why would, if he was a Hitler, why would Joe Biden sit down with him in the White House and be sitting up there smiling for the cameras?
Exactly.
That's Adolf Hitler. Why would Mika and Joe from Morning Joe be going to meet with Hitler, the second coming of Hitler? Why would they do that?
Right.
Of course not. So hearing her say that, talking about it's like a cult and it's terrifying, and I don't want to have any part of it, makes me kind of a little more sympathetic to her, because that's what they are. That's what they are. They were a literal cult, and they became extreme when they got a bit of power, and they were willing to do whatever they could to hold on to it.
Right. Uh-oh. Why did I just leave? What's going on? Did you see
I
me?
see you.
Okay. I just see you. But listen, again, like I say, because they will hurt you. And the thing about it is, if they won't shake you down financially, they will literally hurt you. And what she's doing is very dangerous. That's what I'm saying. Like in terms of where we are as the cultural narrative have shifted. They've been exposed now, right? So
Right.
they can't go all out in the same way. Like I was telling you, once Trump won, they really wanted to be able to discredit that win, but they can't discredit it. And it's their biscuits are burned, as you see, as you're about to see with Roland. His biscuits are so burned. It's like part of his job is to watch all of the social media, all of the things on the news, and find anybody that's saying anything bad about them to come out with a rebuttal. Right?
You gotta keep them black folks. You gotta keep these black folks in check,
right,
because we're already losing some. We're already losing some. Yeah. You gotta get these black. You see how he came out to Stephen A. Smith?
What? Honey.
Did you see him come out? I don't want to get. Yeah, I mean, I truly believe that's his job.
It is his job. He's earning his keep. He's proves it. Oh my gosh. But my point is, this is dangerous what she's doing. And so that's why I'm saying how we know that there is really like some sort of cultural shift. And I do think that with RFK, all of the left's darlings moving over to Trump has shifted the culture, because they're saying if they can go over there, because these people love these people. They loved RFK. They loved Elon Musk. You know, all of the leftists driving Teslas. You know, now
they loved Joe Rogan back in the day.
Loved Joe Rogan.
Loved him.
And all of them now. I mean, the culture. So they don't have anything. And it's funny how they're like, oh, the right have all these podcasts or whatever. You had Joe Rogan on your team. Joe Rogan he wouldn't even interview Trump in 2020.
I remember,
because they were so locked in.
And he said he believed it. He said even he believed it. He believed the narrative that they were painting about Donald Trump. He said, I believed it. But now it's like everybody on Trump's cabinet, that every main person that was involved largely in him winning, from Trump himself to Elon, Joe Rogan, Tulsi, RFK, Vivek, even, were all former Democrats.
Correct.
Every one of them were all former Democrats.
And look, and here's the other irony. What makes the right more credible in their switching, right? Because they want to try to say, oh, you know, J.D. Vance flip-flop. No, everybody on Trump's orbit had a story like J.D. Vance, where we were not first feeling Trump, and then we felt like, oh, wait a second, and then we feel Trump. Yeah, it's truly, you really have that story to tell, but these folks don't have that with Kamala, because Kamala and all of these other people are rehearsing. They're really flip-flopping. You can tell that they're flip-flopping on issues. But when you listen to someone like myself, I was almost a never Trumper in 2015 because I was in an establishment type echo chamber in Atlanta.
I was the same way. I could not stand him. If you went back to my old Facebook posts from 2015, you would hear me just railing about Trump. Like I was just like, man, this clown right here, look at him, man. But then when it came down to him or Hillary, I was like, there's no way I can support her. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a chance here. I prayed about it. Yeah. I voted for him. And then he convinced me over the next few years that he was a good president. I mean, he overwhelmingly convinced me that he was a good president.
Let me tell you, I thought he was a plant. I thought he was a mole.
Did too.
I thought he was a mole coming into the Democrat Party. I mean, coming into, because I knew he was a Democrat. You know what I mean?
But I agree. I felt the exact same way.
I think he's gonna come in here. He's just a mole, just to get whoever they want to be the president or whatever. I just did not believe it. And then after a while, in 2016, I forget what convinced me. I don't know. I think maybe him in the debates, just being himself, and the things that he was, kind of communicating. He was echoing the people. People try to say that we are cultish with him. No, he's actually, we follow him, if you will, for lack of a better word, because he was echoing us, we the people.
Yeah, we support him. Yeah,
that's why we rocking with it, because conservatives, honey, we will turn on you in a minute. We'll be like, away with you. Away with you, Mitch McConnell.
No doubt.
Look at Mike Johnson. Bye, deuces.
People ready to send him up the river. They're ready for him to go.
Kevin McCartney. Who was the guy?
Matt Gaetz.
Yes, Matt Gaetz. That it was Kevin McCarthy, right? That he
Yeah, he got
Oh yes, that was delicious. That was so delicious. I was like, out of here, baby. We get them out.
in a
We don't.
heartbeat.
What? We are
If you're
too.
not on board, if you're not on board with the agenda, you gotta. If you didn't watch, I don't know if you ever watched Tim Cast.
Sometimes.
Watch his Friday episode because he was at the AmFest with Charlie Kirk. He was doing a live show, and he had Charlie Kirk, Matt Gaetz. I'm trying to think of who are the other main people that he had on there. Michael Knowles from Daily Wire. But listen to when Charlie Kirk comes on stage and he's saying what they're planning on doing to keep these Republicans online for the next 4 years. Masterful. You will walk away so encouraged. You have to watch that. You have to watch it. You'll walk away so encouraged. If you don't watch any other segment, wait till Charlie Kirk, because I think he comes on maybe an hour into it. Wait till he comes on. He sits down. He doesn't really talk for like the first 10, 15 minutes. But then he starts talking about him and Matt Gaetz start going back and forth as to their plans or what they plan on doing with Turning Point to make sure that these other Republicans are on board with the MAGA movement, the America First agenda. They're planning. They were saying this is what we're looking to do.
Let me tell you,
primarying. They're going to primary people. If you're not on board, you're going to watch that and you're going to be like, man, I feel pretty good. You know, like Pat Bet David always talks about the future looks bright. It really looks bright. Of course, we have an uphill battle. They're going to be coming after Trump every which way they can. We still have to deal with the establishment Republicans. There are still plenty of them out there, but there's an agenda right now that the right has set up to where if you're not on board, you're going to be gone. So you better be on board. If you want our support, you better pay attention.
And you know what?
I'll send you that video. I'll send it to you.
You know what that's coming from? Because we got burnt with the Tea Party back in 2010. You may not remember. You probably wasn't.
I wasn't into it back then.
Yeah, let me tell you, honey. We had the Tea Party was basically MAGA is a Tea Party. What
2.0.
What it should have been. Yeah, right. Because the Tea Party, we had a groundswell in response to Obama, and we took the House and all of that stuff, and the Senate and blah 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 blah. But then they started turning on us. They started becoming swamp creatures. Because you had the Tea Party candidates, like you have MAGA candidates now, right? They turned on us. Now we are not playing. We got burned with them back in 20. We're not playing with y'all. We're not playing with y'all anymore. So anyway,
let's get this going here.
Okay.
They call me the communist spy. By the way, the communist regime in China killed my great-grandfather. They don't know my family's history. This is the first time I'm really saying it on air. They are calling me a spy.
Hold on, stop. Hold on.
The nerve, right?
You mean to tell me that this chick suffered from communism and she didn't see the comparisons with the left? Really? Like, she was still raising money for them with Kamala Harris has got to be the biggest communist. Everything that she stands for is like straight out of the Communist Manifesto.
And exactly.
So what? I got to go back. I got to watch that whole episode. I got to go back and watch that whole Piers Morgan episode because somebody needs to say, so when did you, you didn't see this? When you didn't, unless she was so deeply indoctrinated and so intimidated that where she felt like she had nothing else to do, but that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, there's a couple factors.
Okay.
One might be what you said earlier, that she really ain't real. She's a plant.
Right.
And she's running game. Okay. She's running game. The other is she's pretty young. So she's probably a millennial. So she grew up in like Philadelphia, whatever, one of those very liberal cities. So from pre-K to graduate school, she's been indoctrinated with this stuff. So it's still better than China, right? That brand. But again, they lure the kids in with this whole moral high ground thing. and this whole, we're helping the working class thing. Okay. So a lot of people are, and a lot of young people are, and professionals especially, are attracted to the Democrat Party because of this false sense of morality that they hold up. So she could be generally deceived.
Yeah. But you would think, hold on, I'm going to put that video back up. But you would think that considering what her family suffered through, she would be able to see maybe her family. And I'm surprised that her family didn't say anything to her. But you're right. The deception, it could be that real. So, all right. All right, I'll give her some, I'll cut her a little slack for now.
For the regime that killed my great grandfather. Let that soak in just for a second. That's how disgraceful they are. Yeah. And these are the people who call themselves the social justice warriors. They are dabbling, they are going headfirst into racism anytime someone dares to disagree with them. I don't want to be a part of this nonsense anymore. I want to be a part of the team that says men are men and women are women, and then men shouldn't play in women's sports. And I'm an athlete myself. I'm a marathon runner.
She's been getting attacked and speared by the left because of her honesty about the Democrat Party and why they lost to Trump. So I want to react to Roland Martin doing what he's paid to do, right? Which is to attack anybody who goes after Democrats. So without further ado, let's get to it.
But can y'all explain to me, with all of the drama, with Biden dropping out July 21st, Harris having 107 days. By the way, the Biden campaign was broke as hell. The money she raised saved their asses. They got within 1.6% of winning. One of the closest margins in 2 decades. And these people are acting like, oh my God, the world just came crashing down. Oh my God, what do we do?
You hear how precise he was? They got within 1 point something of winning. He's talking to the campaign. They giving him the talking points. You can see the talking points.
He may be accurate with that, but let's look at it like this. And I'll keep this short. Because I think the final tally of the popular vote, Trump won by like 3 million votes or something like that. But that's what I heard recently. Mm-hmm. But if you look at how the entire country shifted red, the entire country, there were a lot of places that didn't, where the Republicans didn't win. But when you see Trump gaining 11 points in LA County, mm-hmm. or gaining something similar in New York City, some of these deeply blue cities and states are now shifting red. Like they're a lighter hue of red, shade of red. Something's going on there. That's what people can't deny.
Right.
They can't deny that. When it came down to the popular vote, came down to the vote when it comes down to Trump-Harris, yeah. But even then, I question that with some of these elections, like I said, some of the counting still going on. I'm questioning how valid that is, especially in California. But yeah, he may have a point there when it comes to the exact percentage. But you're seeing a whole cultural shift. You're seeing when you look at the map and you see these large swaths of the country are deeply red, and then you see just a little blue, highly populated areas, but that doesn't represent the country as a whole. The country as a whole got tired of all the BS coming from the left.
Right. And again, I'm not saying that he is wrong in the statistic. I'm just saying that he's not smart enough to know that. Somebody had to give that to him, in my opinion. Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, because he makes it such a point to put that out there, because he's so in love with the trying to fool people to think that he's a real journalist. Okay.
And he's really smart.
Yeah.
He's got his notes in front of him, and he gets gotcha questions all the time.
I can hear him on the phone now. I'm probably like, okay, what I need to say? Okay, yeah. I got that. Yeah. I'll just That's Roland Martin. What's my talking points for today?
Right. Could anybody have predicted the impact of October 7th in Israel, in Gaza, and Hamas on the election? Nope. The reality is Joe Biden was not popular among young people. He wasn't popular among black people.
Yeah, and Kamala Harris wasn't either, right? She wasn't popular.
Thank you.
Among young people, and she wasn't popular among black people either, right? So she wasn't really an upgrade over Joe Biden, right? When it comes to those categories, to be honest with you. However, what Roland Martin is trying to articulate here is this idea that, well, hey, the sky is not falling. The Democrats don't really need to reevaluate due to the fact that Kamala almost won, right? It was a close election, which, really, it wasn't that close considering how Trump won 312 electoral votes, right? I mean, he thoroughly beat Kamala Harris in the electoral college. But the reality that smart people realize is that why in the world did Kamala Harris get beat at all, right? Like that, what smart people are realizing is that everything is rigged in favor of the Democrats. The media is rigged in favor of Democrats.
Yep.
They came after Trump with criminal persecutions, right? I mean, they got some BS conviction against him in the courts. They've been smearing the man for the past 8 years straight. Every single day on the mainstream level media is 24/7 Trump derangement, with everything working in their favor of the Democrats. The question a lot of people are asking is, how did they lose at all, right? Because let's be real, if the media was fair, if the media was neutral, if they were actually journalistic, if they weren't spinning propaganda on behalf of the Democrats, right, covering up their scandals, lying about the state of the country, the economy, the border, inflation, crime, if they weren't doing all these things, if they covered Democrats fairly, do you think the election would have been this close? Right. Let's be real.
Stop it right there.
Trump would have won by a whole lot more.
Excellent point, and that was a point I was wanting to make earlier, or at least I was thinking about it earlier today. Everything was geared against Trump. Trump had a mountain to climb. Everybody against him. The like I keep saying, the lawfare, the media going against him.
Yeah.
You name it. You name it. The entertainment world, sports, all of that against him. But yet somehow that man still managed to win. If things were balanced fairly, like my man just said, if we actually had a media that wasn't 100% against him, she would have got destroyed. It would have been a clear landslide victory. And so, yeah, I mean, like I know Roland's got to do his thing. He's got to get that paycheck. He got to get that check from the DNC. But, got tap dance, literally tap dance for like he did on stage with Hillary Clinton a few years ago, dancing with her. He got a tap dance, for the left. But Trump won an overwhelming victory, especially if you take into consideration the odds that he was fighting against.
I'm telling you, it was, to me, it was divine, right? And the other thing too, because like I said, my biscuits have been burned since 2020. I've been so upset and raging. But again, the divine providence of God in allowing it was almost like no was a weight in 2020. You know what I mean? Because it would not, if Trump would have won, none of this would have come out like this. You know what I mean? Perhaps.
I was saying the same thing. I'm glad he didn't win in 2020.
Yeah, so because now everybody can see it. Because otherwise, they would have continued to have had their stronghold, and then they would have continued the lawfare, and then they couldn't have had January the 6th. He couldn't really get beyond that. But long story short, all of that had to happen. It had to happen so that we could get to where we are here, which is way sweeter and way more effective. Right
COVID had to happen. COVID had to happen because the cover was removed, and we saw the school system for what it was.
Yep.
We saw the radical nature of these people when it came down to their their controlling ways.
The
and
medical
all this
community,
stuff had. Say again.
and how the left has infiltrated every aspect, the medical community, how
Yes.
doctors were co-signing these narratives
Man,
about COVID.
when you said that it had to be divine, the Lord truly orchestrated this whole situation to go down the way it did. We're over here, and it's a reminder for those of us who believe, those of us who are Christ followers, to lean not on our own understanding.
Correct.
That is such a reminder. Everything that took place over these last 8 years is just a reminder that we just have to trust God in his perfect ways. Now, I thought that if Harris won, that would have just been the judgment of God on our nation, and we were deserving of such. We were deserving of that. But the mere fact when he won that night, I threw my hands up. Yes, I was like, yes. I was so thankful. I was like, thank you, Lord. I mean, I was praising God because he gave us a moment. He gave us a few years of reprieve. Now, what are we going to do with that? What are we going to do with that mercy? Are we going to, because I don't want to get too far off the topic, but have you noticed like a somewhat of a cultural shift? People seem to be coming back to God over these last 4 years or so. You have a lot of people, like the new atheist movement post 2001, post 9/11, is pretty much dead. And there are atheists out there who, even though they may not have went to the point to where they're truly coming to faith in Jesus, even they're realizing that in the absence of a Christian worldview, insanity ensues. Because that's what we've seen since 9/11. There was a new atheist, your Richard Dawkins, your Christopher Hitchens, your Sam Harris's. I think there was another guy, Daniel Dennett. They call him like Four Horsemen. They call him the Four Horsemen of the new atheist movement. They were out there saying how religion poisons everything. And after 9/11, people were buying into it. And they thought that once religion is, especially Christianity, is moved out of the way, there would be a new enlightenment period where reason would come in there and would save the country, save the world. But what we've largely seen over the last almost 24 years is a cultural experiment where Christianity, religion in general, has been pushed to the side, and we see the fruit of what happens with people who don't believe and don't trust in God, who trust in themselves. Because once you lose that foundation, that biblical foundation, the ultimate foundation for morality, reason, science, rationality, love, beauty, you name it. Once that has been removed, that foundation, nothing comes from that but chaos.
Yeah.
And that's largely what we've been seeing over these last few years. So I just want to throw that in there.
Very much so. Very much so.
So if you consider the fact that everything is skewed in favor of Democrats and they still lost, that makes Kamala's loss to Trump even worse. Worse than it is on paper. And see, that's what people like Roland don't realize. But smart people in the Democrat Party realize that, we should be ashamed that we lost to Trump. The fact of the matter is, he was old, and he showed it, and he looked feeble. And America likes to project strength. But you know what is the worst thing to happen right now? When you have weak, sorry, pathetic, feckless, and impotent Democrats, including individuals who were members of the DNC's finance committee, who have nothing of value to add. They're not crafty. Lindy Lee isn't trying to say, hey, how do we craft a game plan to win governor's mansions in 2025? How do we craft a game plan to win the Wisconsin Supreme Court race in 2025? How do we make sure the Democrats keep control of the House in Virginia in 2025? How do we craft a plan to win the seats needed in 2026 in the midterms? No, all she's doing is taking her bony ass on Fox News, bitching and moaning about, oh my God, how this was so awful, how things were ran.
No, he's not
She has
criticizing
nothing
somebody's
of value
body.
to add.
Nothing.
See, here's what Roland is missing.
You can pause that. You can pause that.
I hope the Democrats adopt this. But I hope Democrats listen to people like Roland, right?
I just got to ask, does Roland have, I would love to ask him this. If I ever got the opportunity to have a conversation, not that I expect to change this man's mind, but does he have any limits? Can the Democrats ever go too far left to where you won't support them? I just want to know that. He's a professing Christian. I think he says his wife is a pastor or something like that. I've heard him make that claim over the years. Like, can they ever get to the point to where you're not going to be supportive of them? Like, do you have any limit whatsoever? Or are you just beholden to them, period? Because what you see, what we've been saying throughout this whole show is that many people got to a breaking point. No, I can't take this. And no, that's just a couple of steps too far. That's ridiculous. Transitioning kids is ridiculous. Wide open borders is ridiculous. Being soft on crime, defunding the police, ridiculous. That's where most reasonable people have gotten. But Roland, it's just like, regardless of what they say, what they do, what they believe, what they try to enforce, that man is going to be sitting up there sniffing their behinds and following them along the whole way without any standards whatsoever. I just got to know, is it vote blue no matter who? Is that is that how he looks at it? Or can he say, nope, I'm done. Time out. Y'all just doing too much. Like, it just, I don't know. I don't even know what else to say.
We already talked about it. This is his life. This is his meal ticket. Like, this is the only game in town for him. Okay, he's a black vote. His job title is to wrangle black votes and to use propaganda to do so. And I'm over here wondering at the nerve of him looking like he has an A1C of 12, talking about somebody's body.
Right.
Okay. Like, he is one doctor visit away from being on dialysis. He needs to get it. I mean, come on here, Roland.
That's why they call him roly-poly.
His feminine self. Like,
what are you telling? Feminine, fat, feminine.
Bony. Like, stop it, bro. Like, I'm telling you, this guy is a shield for the Democrats because they pay him. This is the only game in town for him. He can't go anywhere else. Period. And that's why she had to pay him $300,000 for an interview. He claimed it's advertising. Ain't no advertisers checking for Roland Martin's content.
I know. You know what? I used to watch him back in the day. Back in like 2015, I used to watch his show pretty frequently. I was making my shift out of that, but there's a part of me that he was on that TV One. I think it's a TV One network. And I used to watch his show, and I wasn't in agreement with him, but I would still watch it. I think it just had a habit. And I was living in Arkansas. We were living in Arkansas at the time, and it was kind of like that was the only black show or network on. Like, now, I just look at that as like silly. Like, I don't even care about none of that stuff.
Anytime they create anything that is just black, it is not going to last because it is just identity politics, basically. Right. In terms of a news type show, right? Because we are Americans. I don't want to tune in to hear about just black something. You know what I mean? I want to hear about what's happening in the world. Tell me about what's happening with black Americans, and give me a segment on that. But just a whole show is just constantly blackity black. It becomes you become not credible, right? Because now you just sound like him, and you become bitter, and you just
you're very limited in your reach. Your reach is going to be very limited because how many? Yeah, I mean, how many black folks are going to? I mean, what's your audience base? We're already only like 12-13% of the population. So you already got that going against you. So then how many actually and then you probably cut that in half because most of those are young kids. So you probably now you're at 6%. So and then how many are interested in watching the news? So
Correct.
you're probably at 3% by then, if you're lucky.
The things that do well that are targeted to just Black are entertainment type things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like old Video Soul and 106 in Park back in the day, and
the culture, right? Yeah. But in terms of like, you know, a Black person, just, you know, I don't want to see a newscast of all just Black people. I want to see a newscast of diverse people or diverse opinions. You know what I mean?
Diverse stories.
More diverse stories and more diverse opinions, and news people that are going out looking for positive stories in the Black community, like King Randall or Jason Wilson's Cave of Adullam, or my friend Josiah's kids down in Atlanta, or Angela Stanton's Auntie Angie's house. You know, give me some segments on that, Roland.
Oh, he wouldn't have none. Especially, he's had both of them on. He's had them on. He's had Angela Stanton. She used to appear pretty regularly on there, but of course they clash because she's more conservative. And she had King Randall. King Randall, all he did was just be critical of what he was trying to do.
Exactly. You have them on to you know, beat them down with the Democrat talking points and propaganda. Why aren't you featuring what they're doing?
Instead of, you know what? Don't even talk about your political opinion. Just talk about the good that they're doing for the Black community. But if they're not a Democrat, he's got to go on attack mode. Correct. That's why he doesn't get respect, because there's other people that are like, hey man, listen, why don't you like tout what he's doing, the positive impact that he's having, but he don't want to have nothing to do with it.
I don't see any Black journalists on the left looking for people to feature like a King Randall, right? Or like what Angela Stanton King is doing, particularly if they lean Republican. Now, if you lean Democrat, they're going to feature you, or if you are, you know, or you know, echo those racial narratives and show yourself to be kind of sensitive to that, then they'll feature you then. But yeah, anyway, that's just my pet peeve.
All right, you want to like give me your unless there's a little more you want to show.
No, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. But really, that's good enough.
So we hit on a couple of topics. We hit on Biden. We talked about this old I ain't gonna clown him too much. Roland Martin, I'll just call his name. You know, Lord knows, I'm telling you, I gotta brace myself when I see that dude's face, for real, because I know nonsense is gonna flow. But anyway, I digress. What are your final thoughts on some of the things we discussed today? What do you think, if you want to kind of summarize your thoughts, and I'll share mine, and then we can wrap it up.
I just think it's a joke. Well, I'm not gonna say a joke. I'm like you. I'm a little bit suspicious of a lot of people now, you know, kind of waking up, right? That's something that we wanted to happen, and we want to see happen, because we've been trying through these videos over the years that you and I've been doing, trying to persuade people, right, to consider what we were saying, right? And many people are doing that now, but I am suspicious that some of it is cap, as the young people say, right? And then my final thoughts is, I would love an opportunity to ask some of these folks, would you be feeling this way if Kamala would have won? That's the smoking gun question that I feel needs to be asked to everyone who is now saying, Biden, they lied to us. The left is lying to us. The left is lying to us, when they spent all of these years and just up until a couple weeks before the election, echoing the leftist establishment that they are now upset about. And then, you know, the CNNs and all of these other folks, you know, that's my, I don't know if it's a closing thought, but just a concern, something that I'm watching.
No, I think you're on point 100%. And we'll see where this goes, because like I said, we're seeing a pretty big cultural shift. I haven't heard that Disney recently was going to have some, and I've stopped. I used to have Disney Plus. Once they started really pushing that gay trans agenda, I was like, I can't do it. I can't continue to give money to people who clearly hate my perspective and they don't care about it whatsoever, and they're seeking to indoctrinate. So, but I heard recently that there was going to be some movie and there was going to be a trans character or something like that, and they removed it. And Disney said, and this is just what I heard, but that they think that parents want to have that conversation on their own with their kids. So it's like, it was a slow progression for them to finally come to the conclusion or to the understanding that people just don't want to see this garbage being presented to them on their rated G or rated PG movies or TV shows. I've been a comic book fan since I was a little kid, like 8 years old. I bought my first comic book. So when the MCU was doing their thing, I was all on board. It's like, you know, my childhood coming to life on the screen. I was all on board. But then slowly over these last few years, they were bringing in that gay agenda, and they're pushing LGBT and trans this and all this nonsense. Like, and they were force feeding it to people. Like, you're gonna accept this one way or another. But this shift we've been seeing nowadays, where people like us, and that doesn't necessarily even mean they're fully conservative. They just don't want that being fed to their kids.
Correct.
The more people start standing up to the Bud Lights, and to the Harley Davidsons, and to Disney, and to all these different organizations and companies that are pushing this stuff down your throat, down your kids' throat. People are just like, I'm done. Gay marriage was, you know, like enshrined in the law, and it's just like people weren't content with that. That wasn't enough for them. Now it's like, you're going to accept everything that we want, and you're going to celebrate it. You can't even be critical of it. I don't care whether it's attached to your religious beliefs or not. You can't even be critical of it. So, and that's what we were warning people of for years. We said that there was a slippery slope. You open the door to gay marriage, it's a matter of time. If you say you can redefine marriage, well, what else can't you redefine? You can basically redefine everything else. Oh, you're exaggerating. People don't want that, but that's exactly what we got.
They're doing it. Oh, you attracted to children?
Yep.
There's a movement. They're working on that now.
Yep. What do they call it? Minor attracted persons.
Yeah.
Like, they even they're masters of manipulating the language to soften how to try to keep everyone from understanding how evil things are. What do they call it? Women's health care or gender affirming care. They're masters at it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but finally there was a glimmer of hope, God's graciousness on us and our country. I hope that when it's all said and done, we return back to our maker. We return back to the one who made us. We stop mocking him. We stop mocking his creation. We stop treating his children like they're worthless and they can be snuffed out just because of how we feel. We start honoring him. We start honoring his creation. And I'm hoping that everything we've seen over the last few months is a true sign of people coming to of mankind, America primarily, but mankind in general, just coming to our senses and just seeing the error of our ways and giving glory back to God. That's my ultimate hope.
Amen.
But
we did not deserve this win, man. I was like, we did not deserve this.
Not at all. Not at all.
This country did not deserve this. Go ahead.
No, and I see people freaking out. Remember, everybody's freaking out after Trump won, getting on TikTok and Instagram and screaming and crying. And I'm just like, they just don't understand. They just don't get it. They're going to reap the benefits of it, ultimately, of God being merciful on us. They're going to reap the benefit of a better economy. They're going to reap the benefits of a sealed up border, job-wise, safety-wise. They're going to reap all these benefits of all these different things.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that as time goes on, people I just pray for our nation. I pray for our people.
Yes.
People just continue to start coming to their senses and not just be politically, do the right things politically, but come to a true understanding that we have rebelled against a holy God for most of our lives. And apart from him, we can do nothing. And we live our lives as if, I've said this, and this will be my last thought. Some people here we live our lives as if, God isn't our maker. We give glory and honor to time and chance acting on matter, to evolution. We say, man is a product of evolution, all our thoughts and all this kind of stuff. And God sits back and he's the provider of our next breath, of our next thought, of our heart beating. And yet, and we wonder when people say God is a wrathful God, and people are like, I can't understand how God could send someone to hell for all eternity, or why God would allow people to suffer. But yet, every moment of your life, most people live as if he doesn't exist. Every moment. And it's just like, that is the height of blasphemy. That is the height of it. And yet, but I truly know and I truly believe, and I think it's biblical, that when we stand before God and we have to give account of our lives, especially those who profess to be non-believers, they're going to know that what they get from God. And I pray that they repent and they truly come to him. I don't want anybody to suffer. The Lord doesn't even want anyone to suffer. But I'm confident that when they stand before God and the truth that they suppressed for so many years is right there in front of them, they're going to understand that whatever they get from God is pure justice. Pure justice. And unfortunately, they're going to have to reap everything that they sowed for a lifetime.
But you know what? Now you cooking and you stirring. You didn't stir it up, because this is my final thought, right?
Right.
Just jogged my memory, reminded me of the things that I have been consistently praying as I pray for this nation and all what's been going on. And I've been actually praying for Hunter Biden since the whole laptop thing was broken, because I felt like, Lord, what I would love for this, because again, why was he so merciful to us? Why did he allow this window of time for us? And I'm like, God, you got to save some souls. Come on, you got to get you a couple souls from these political manipulators. Come on now.
Like, how beautiful would it be to see Kamala Harris and Joe Biden fall to their knees and repent for their sins?
I say, God, come on now, come on, flex for me and give Hunter Biden.
Right.
He got the pressure on him, God. He already got the pressure. Go on and draw him in.
Amen.
Go ahead and confess his sins and let the world know what everybody been doing. And then that can hopefully create a cascade of other people wanting to repent. Okay, particularly his family. Okay, if not him, give me Kamala, give me Trump. Okay, since Trump is already influencing the culture, come on, give me a soul, just a soul. God is most glorified when he saves sinners.
Amen.
Now, the last point you mentioned about how the world is living like he doesn't exist, right? Yes. And so right here, I've been driving Uber, right? I was telling you, Uber and Lyft. And so in my car jumps this young man, okay, 25 years old. And for some reason, he just tells me that he had encephalitis in 2019, almost died. And he showed me the pictures. I mean, I wouldn't even have known. I was dropping him off to work. And he was in a coma for weeks, couldn't walk or anything, had to go and be rehabilitated and whatever. So, and then I looked at him, I said, do you believe in God? Because he showed me his pictures. He said, let me show you. And I said, do you believe in God? He's like, I'm struggling. I said, why are you struggling? And he said, basically, this whole thing. Why does bad things happen to good people? He's basically was like, I was living really bad. Right. And I survived this. But then my friend, he was really good and he died. Right. And so I was like, so you want to know why bad things happen to good people? And he was like, yeah. And then, but long story short, here's what the Lord, if anyone's listening, here's what the Lord gave me as an answer to that. And it's so sweet, like a daddy would. If I told you, Tisha, the answer to that question, what could you do with that information? If I told you why bad things happen to good people, if I told you why Satan, I created Satan, or why evil exists, if you know any of the questions, right? And these are good questions. But here's what also he's told me via was it John Piper some years ago? God is absolutely sovereign over all things, but he disapproves of many of them. He is just, and just as like how we saw in 2020, we was over here, my biscuits was burned. I'm like, what's going on? We lost. And here we are at full circle. And I'm like, oh God, what you're amazing.
Amen.
You're amazing. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, all of that. God is glorified, most glorified when he saves sinners. Jesus Christ has come to save us from burdens that are too heavy for us to carry and debts too high for us to pay. That is the good news of the gospel. And that is what we're hoping will happen for some of these political manipulators. Okay, God.
I can't say anything after that. That is perfect. That is a perfect way to end this podcast. We appreciate y'all checking us out. If you appreciate content like this, make sure you like and subscribe. Clarity, Tisha, where can people, if people like what you have to say, where can people find you?
Yeah, just on YouTube here, Clarity Speaks. Just search Clarity Speaks Politics and Religion. You can find me on Instagram, Clarity Speaks, and also on X. You can find me on Clarity Speaks. I'm also on Rumble as well. I'm all the places where the conservatives be. Okay. Yeah, I don't do True Social as much, right? But I have an account there. I'm just not over there. But yeah, holla at your girl.
Yeah, sounds good. Follow her, y'all. I love her content. That's how we caught up with each other years ago, talking about all the police shootings and all that drama. I'm sure we're going to be hearing more of that stuff in the next few years. But in the meantime, y'all, as always, stay safe, God bless, and make sure you join the conversation. Peace.